Good morning, Commissioners. We are going to begin our meeting a little bit differently this morning. Both our chair and our vice chair are absent for this morning, so we're going to begin with an election of a chair pro tem. So I will now start the August 5-6, 2021 Commission meeting. Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Catherine Williams Brown.
Here.
Jose Cardenas.
Present.
C. Michael Cooney.
Here.
Marco De La Torre.
Present.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo. Anna Marie Francois.
Present.
Makita Gwino Shire.
Present.
Megan Gross. Johanna Harwick.
Present.
Susan Aradia.
Here.
Terry Jackson.
Here.
Bonnie Clark. Monica Martinez.
Here.
David Simmons.
Here.
Tina Sloan. Andrew Wall. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 1A is nomination and election for Chair Pro Tempore for the August 5-6, 2021 Commission meeting. Section 311 of the Commission's Policy Manual allows for the election of a Chair Pro Tempore to serve as the presiding officer due to the absence of Chair Tina Sloan and Vice Chair Marisol De La Torre Escobedo for the August 5-6, 2021 Commission meeting. Are there any nominations for Chair Pro Tempore? Oh, I see Commissioner Simmons.
I would like to nominate the most, what I believe is the most senior member of the commission, C. Michael Cooney, to be Chair Pro Tempore.
Thank you so much.
Second.
If there are no further nominations, I will now close nominations for Chair Pro Tempore, and I will now open the election for the Chair Pro Tempore of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Do I have, well, I think we've had a motion. Recording Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Do we have a second, Mary?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I thought it was, I heard a second. It was, well, it cannot be either Marquita or Catherine. We need a voting member of the commission. I'm so sorry.
I'll second.
I see Commissioner Martinez has seconded the motion.
Thank you, Secretary.
We will now call the roll.
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney.
Abstain.
Michael De La Torre.
Aye.
Johanna Harwick.
Aye.
Susan Aradia. Terry Jackson.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye. Sorry, I was on mute.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. I will now turn the meeting over to Chair Pro Tem, Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you very much, Mary, and commissioners. This will be a day of bearing with the chair. I feel privileged to have the opportunity to convene the meeting of August 5-6, and I'm going to point out that because we have an exact quorum of commissioners present, we in advance selected our ex officio members to step in if and when it's needed in this order. First, Commissioner Francois. Second, Commissioner Brown. And third, Commissioner Grant-Renewal Shire. Those ex officio members were picked at random. And we'll probably need all of you at some point during our meeting. So thank you very much. Now we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Mary, would you lead us today?
Yes, please stand. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to remind everybody about the meeting procedures before we get into the agenda. Because many of us are working remotely, this meeting is being conducted via Zoom. Staff is maintaining a minimal presence in the commission building, but everyone else is participating from their own locale. We would like you to know that everyone's microphone is muted to eliminate any background noise that may hinder others from hearing what is being said. Commissioners and presenters can unmute yourself, but please mute your microphone after you're done speaking. If you're commenting or asking questions, you may be using the video audio functions, and some of you will be using audio only. Commissioners that would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. I'm sure you're all familiar with that process. Because this is a teleconference meeting, we need to conduct each vote by roll call. Just before the vote, we will remind everyone to make sure you're unmuted so that we don't miss anyone's vote. We would like to ask the members of the public who want to make public comment to check their Zoom identification. Your Zoom identification is the name used when you're logging into the meeting. It is important that the Zoom identification is accurate so that we can call on you appropriately during public comment. We have new procedures for providing public comment. The committee chair will announce when the public comment period is open during the presentation of the agenda item and ask for anyone who wishes to make comment to notify the meeting moderator. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. The Zoom ID name used by the member of the public to join the Zoom meeting will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the U.S. toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual it is their turn to speak by calling the last 4 digits of their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Please note only the last 4 digits of the caller's phone number will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Each of our committee chairs will have the discretion to set a time limit on comments depending on the volume of speakers seeking to speak on a particular item. We ask that you keep your remarks brief and focused on the particular item you are speaking to. You will get a 1-minute warning and will be asked to finish your sentence before being muted by the meeting host. Also, just like an in-person meeting, this meeting is being recorded. After the meeting, the archived audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. We're ready to move to item 2A of the agenda, which is approval of the June 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the June 21, 2021 regular session minutes? Commissioner Jackson is making the motion. Do we have a second? Let's see, my screen's jumping around. I see. Okay, Commissioner Martinez, thank you very much. So we will now call the roll for approval of the commission meeting in June of this year.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I might note that we did have ad hoc committee meeting minutes before us today, but due to the fact that members of the ad hoc committee itself are not present, we'll need to defer approval of those minutes until our October meeting. Moving to item 2B, approval of the August 2021 agenda. We have a revised item 6A, but the agenda is otherwise as circulated. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Commissioner Hartwig, thank you. And a second? Commissioner Jackson, seconds. Any discussion on the agenda? All right, we're ready for the vote. Madam Clerk.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 2C is approval of the August 2021 consent calendar. Do commissioners have any items they would like to consider in closed session? Commissioner Cardenas.
I'd like to recuse myself on item number 5.
Okay. Commissioner Hartwig.
Yes, I would like for us to consider numbers 34, 35, 36, and 40. And those names are 34 Cody Shelton, 35 Dakota Daniel Shelton, 36 Shane Shelton, and number 40 Angel Tejeda.
Staff has noted those exceptions. Those will be considered by the commission in closed session later today. Are there any other matters commissioners wish to remove from the agenda? I'm not seeing any. So do we have a motion to approve all remaining items on the consent calendar? Commissioner Hartwig makes the motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Jackson again. Thank you. We have a motion. It's been seconded. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you all for getting us through that rigorous beginning to our meeting. I have just a couple of comments. I want to first acknowledge that Commissioner Klatt, one of our longest serving members, is not with us today because she was forced from her home near Colfax with the onset of a new fire yesterday. We very much have her in our thoughts. She may not be voting, but she's certainly here with us. We also appreciate, I more than I have even, the terrific work that our commission chair, Tina, has conducted all year long, and last year as well. Her absence is certainly present here, but she is enjoying her second home in France at the moment, and for good news or bad to her, the electronics don't allow her to join the meeting, but she'll want to know all about it. So be ready for the call. Commissioner Marisol De La Torre says that she's going to be able to join us for the closed session this afternoon, and she will be chairing the closed session as usual. This morning she is with her class beginning school, so perhaps we'll learn more about the first day of school in the Chico area. Next, we'd like to go to the director's report. Mary, do you have something today?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Cooney, and commissioners, welcome to the August meeting. It's great to see all of our participants in this meeting as well. We have a very comparatively light agenda this month, but with some very significant items for our discussion. August is typically a time, the rhythm of life and the rhythm of just, the rhythms of the school year are ingrained, I think, in all of us. August is a time of excitement for the start of school, new shoes, new backpacks, newly updated classrooms that are getting ready for students. There's always a palpable excitement. Some of it very positive, some of it a little bit anxiety driven, but it's August and it's the start of school. But it's the start of school under conditions that I fear are becoming normal. We have forest fires breathing down the state, driving teachers from their homes and maybe threatening the beginning of school. We've got surges in a pandemic that has become a new norm in our life. And these things are, I think, bringing tension into this time of normal excitement. But we're still moving forward as schools are getting ready to reopen. It takes real drive and real energy to get those spaces open for the students and for the teachers and for the administrators and staff. And I just want to, on behalf of all of us, wish our teachers, our students and their families, our school administrators, our counselors, our school nurses, our librarians, the staff that make our schools run, the very, very best as we get ready to start school under these conditions. And it's going to be an exciting year in ways that we have never anticipated. But we can get a lot done and a lot of good work done if we keep a positive eye to the future and to the work that we're doing. So congratulations on the beginning of school to the community that is beginning that work, and not just in our pre-K through grade 12 space, but our institutions of higher education as well. Courage, friends and colleagues, and do your best. That's the sign that was always on the front door as my children left home to go to school. The sign at eye level was do your best. And let's call to the best in each other and in our students and families and make the most of this optimistic moment, this point of time in the year. And that's really all I have to report. Commissioner Cooney?
Thank you very much, Mary. Do commissioners have any reports for us this morning? Not seeing any. Oh, there we go. Commissioner Francois.
Good morning, fellow commissioners, commission staff, public. I missed the last commission meeting. I want to first say, I extend my appreciation for just the love and support that was afforded me by this body and others in the field around the passing of my mother in June. And I want you all to know that it is, while we are drilling down in this work, this happens because of relationships, and it happens because of the ethic of care that we have with one another, with students, with staffs, and the faculty that serve our students. And so I felt that love over the last 2 months, and I am deeply grateful for this committee or for this commission. I don't know that it's a report necessarily, but I did want to say a couple of things. Executive Director Sandy, you reminded me that this summer, it is easy in these times for us to lean into despair because of the uncertainty. And I know that many of my teacher education colleagues at the university who have been very proud of and very committed to this past year of centering equity, centering leadership, centering anti-racism in their school have been discouraged of late with the recent attacks on ethnic studies and critical race theory. And even as we continue to do that work, you remind me, Executive Director Sandy, that there's also hope, and there's really these activity that's going on across our state that is making me hopeful for the future. So I just want to share a couple of things, because one of the things that I'm most excited about is there's been a lot of intersegmental activity, and you know that I have been a little bit critical about the divisions amongst our segments. And this past summer, what I have seen is segments coming together to try to solve the pervasive problem, particularly around equity and leadership, that our state has been challenged by, not just recently, but for decades. And so I think that one of the activities that has happened, you know, that the state budget came out, and there was a lot of wins in that budget, and there were a lot of things that we still need to work on. But one of the things that happened is that the California Subject Matter Project did receive a one-time appropriation of $7 million in the budget, $5 million for expanded professional learning opportunities for teachers, and $2 million for the development of professional learning tools and resources to support the implementation of the ethnic studies model curriculum. And that's a brave step forward given the current socio-political climate for our state to take that stance. Later on in the commission meeting, I want to share a little bit of the data about that. I think it's around, it's in an agenda item, but that gives me hope. The fact that our state is making these kinds of decisions and putting our money where our mouth is, right? I also want to report on the work of 21 CSLA, the 21 California School Leadership Academy, which is housed at UC Berkeley, but really is a statewide effort to increase teacher quality through equity in teacher and administrative leadership to build the capacity of LEAs. And I have seen collaboration between local education agencies, institutions of higher ed, advocacy groups, community-based organizations, and our statewide association to ensure that we are consistent and coherent in how we are centering equity in the work of developing transformative equity leadership across segments and in various roles. And that gives me hope also for the future. And then the last two things I want to report on are, oftentimes we forget that the UC role in teacher education is critical. And the critical role that we play is that we see, grow, and cultivate research and innovation that improves teacher and leader quality, student achievement, student learning, and school transformation. And I want to give a shout out to the, let me get this right, the network that our own chair, Dr. Tina Sloan, leads at UC Berkeley, the California Teacher Education Research and Innovation Network, because they've spent a lot of time Dr. Sloan and her team have spent a lot of time making the resources that advance equity, that are research-based, more accessible, not only for teacher education scholars and practitioners, for the general public. And if you were to visit their website right now, you would see a series of videos of influential scholars and practitioners of teacher ed really leaning into where are we, how did we get here, and what is the future of our field? And a series of research briefs that would inform the practices that are affecting quality in K-12 learning. And then the last thing that I want to say, and it's reflected in the budget, is I am so thrilled with this state's commitment to bilingual education, the investments that are going to be put into bilingual education. The diversity of our state requires it. The number of multilingual learners that we are charged to support calls us to do this work. And so I'm going to give a shout out to two programs. UC Davis and UCLA have really leaned into preparing bilingual teachers in ways that they have not done in the past. And the number of bilingual authorizations that they have sponsored in Spanish and Mandarin and in secondary mathematics and science, and the innovative kind of networks that they're creating in two very different parts of the state. It's encouraging. And I share all of these things as highlights of the best of what we can do together. And as much as all the pandemics, COVID is making me nuts. This Delta variant, I could go on a whole tangent. Even as we are surrounded by all of this, I want this body to know, and I want everybody that is on this call today in the public to know, teacher education, leadership education in this state, it's strong, it's robust, and you're not going to beat us down. We continue to show up. We show up for our teachers, we show up for our leaders, and most important, we show up for our students and our communities. And I want to commend all of us for just kind of leaning in and doing the good work of equity in our field. That was a long report, I know, but you can tell I'm jabbed. And you know that when Anna Marie Francois is jabbed, she has no time limits on the mic.
It never entered my mind to shorten your remarks, Commissioner Francois. That was really energizing, and we appreciate it. Any other commissioner remarks before we go to liaisons? Commissioner Green-Shire.
Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, colleagues. And Anna Marie, you go, girl. I appreciated your update and your enthusiasm, and I'm so glad to see you back on my screen this morning. In the spirit of equity, I want to share some good news about a new grant that the California State University has received. And I'm sharing it not only to share the good news, but it has implications for commissioners and for the field. So this past summer, the CSU received a $3 million grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to establish the CSU Center for Transformational Educator Preparation Programs, or CTEP. CTEP is going to leverage the successes of a previous initiative in the CSU that I've talked about to the commissioners, and that is the New Generation of Educators Initiative, or NGI, which was funded by the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation. So this new center builds upon that works, and our overall aim is to strengthen the recruitment, preparation, and retention of Black, Indigenous, and teachers of color to serve our diverse student population. So CTEP will support campuses and district teams and colleagues with 3 initiatives, and the second initiative that I'm going to mention will be available to colleagues within the next year. The first initiative is the Transformation Lab, or T-Lab. Campus teams will engage in assessment of their preparation programs, using an improvement science lens, choose aims, and work toward them with the guidance of improvement coaches from the CSU's Educator Quality Center. The second initiative is the Equity and Excellence Certificate, and team members will be funded through the grant to participate in 2 units of professional development to earn a newly developed CSU Excellence and Equity certification. Yesterday, I had the privilege of taking a peek at these course modules. that were developed by our superstar faculty in our system. And I am so excited by the depth and breadth of these certificates. So stay tuned for more news about that. And then the third initiative is the transformative teaching and learning community. And team members will network through virtual meetings, share content, and be provided with curated resources. So I will share information about the center as the work emerges. And again, I want to thank all of our faculty who were involved in developing the center, and of course, the Gates Foundation for their support. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Commissioner Grant-Renewal. Also, a report from Commissioner Brown.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, this is really exciting. I'm a little bit nervous being the third of the three, because the two of you ahead of me have just made amazing announcements and excitement. And thank you for helping our system not lean into despair, as Commissioner Francois would say. It really is hopeful. We are looking at the new year as well at the community colleges, trying to balance clarity with flexibility, and it seems to change weekly. Executive Director Sandy's idea about having courage and doing our best, I will add a PS with grace and courtesy, as we have been doing this last year as well. I wanted to just mention a couple of things. First of all, really excited about what's going to happen today around the update around early childhood education. The entire field of early childhood education, particularly at the community colleges, is very excited about the work that's been done. And Dr. Randy Wolf of ESEPS, that's Early Care and Education Pathways to Success, has met with the staff in the interim of these two meetings. And it's just really exciting to think about the kinds of things that we might be able to do, which brings me to my final point. And looking at Commissioner Grant-Renewal, we met with a group of people about the collaboration between the community colleges and the California State Universities, so that we can encourage the teacher pipeline, particularly with Black and people of color and women, to be able to have affordable teacher preparation education that is also streamlined, so that students can move from the community college systems into the CSU system without so many hurdles that they end up being discouraged and give up. So that was a really exciting meeting. I think that we're going to put together a work group, at a CSU work group, and I'm kind of looking at my fellow Commissioner Grant-Renewal, and that it will include members of the leaders of the community college system, particularly ACTEP, that looks at California teacher education preparation from the community colleges as well. So yeah, there's hope and excitement today. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Commissioner Brown. And we know we'll hear from you very soon. Other commissioners, any comments? Everybody, I don't see any hands, so we'll go to liaisons, and I see my favorite former Commissioner Rodriguez.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for that. I hope everybody's doing well. And Director Sandy, thank you so much for the reminder. We can just do our best in these times. And so let's see, I think my liaison report is short, I think. The July meeting was smooth, one-day meeting regarding the July State Board meeting. Regarding educator quality, the state board took action to adopt a new template for the School Accountability Report Card, or SARC, with significantly revamped teacher data tables. These data tables are made possible because of the CTC's State Assignment Accountability System, or CalSAS, and its data sharing with the department. In prior years, the SARC had 2 teacher data tables on teacher credentials and misassignments and vacancies. Now with CalSAS, the department will be pre-populating 4 comprehensive data tables for schools, detailing information that is both consistent with ESSA, teacher data reporting, and California's teacher classifications for reporting on the 2020-2021 school year, which must take place by February 1st, 2022. School communities will have access to site-specific information on fully credentialed teachers, permits, waivers, misassignments, and local assignment options. If you'd like to see for yourself, the tables are located in item 5 of the July meeting, and state board staff can also help me get you that information if you'd like. Next, the World Language and Arts Frameworks. I'm a little more familiar with the arts frameworks because I'm the liaison, and so I had the opportunity to sit in the meetings, the deliberations of a couple of weeks ago. But the 2021 Arts Education Instructional Materials Adoption is the first of its kind. Normally, adoption of instructional materials includes training and deliberation sessions where reviewers fly to Sacramento, stay in a hotel, engage in a 2-week-long conference facilitated by the commissioners of the Instructional Quality Commission, or IQC, and supported by staff from Curriculum Frameworks and Instructional Resources Division. This year, the training and deliberations were entirely virtual. It was designed to blend asynchronous and synchronous approaches. Reviewers had access to asynchronous learning modules created by staff and organized entirely in Google Classroom. Content reviewers received materials, 2 music programs and 3 visual arts, and the deliberations were held July 19th through 23rd. We are excited that California students will have access to high quality instructional materials for music and visual arts. And as I said, I was in, good part of the deliberations, and great conversations were being had. And I was just thoroughly impressed with the commitment on behalf of the reviewers and staff. And the California Summer School for the Arts is in session. It's a rigorous pre-professional month-long training program. Actually, today is the last day. So it's been going on for a month. In the visual and performing arts, creative writing, animation, and film for talented artists of high school age. CISA, because I always say CISA, but we know Mr. Simmons, that's a different thing. Commissioner Simmons. CISA provides a supportive environment in which students hone acquired skills and explore new techniques and ideas for intense and exciting learning experiences. So if you know of a high school student who is interested, one of the things is that we'd really like the more students throughout California to represent at CISA, and the work that they do is just so impressive. At 5 o'clock tonight, I'll get to go to the Zoom and watch their final presentation, so I'm very excited about that. And lastly, want to congratulate Michael Kurtz for being the 2021 recipient of the James Bryant Conan Award. At the State Board of Education meeting, we recognized him for having received this prestigious award in recognition of his unwavering commitment to improving the school finance systems to serve students more equitably. Kirst, Professor Emeritus at Stanford University, is California's longest serving board president, having held the post for both administrations of former Governor Jerry Brown. And we're really grateful to all of his work, and took a moment to recognize him with this, like I said, a prestigious award. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Commissioner Rodriguez, it reminds me of how much I miss seeing you here in Sacramento every other month, but your reports do keep us in close touch with things at the state board. So thank you for being so diligent in reporting them.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones. There you are, up in the corner. You're jumping around on my screen. Good to see you, Corey.
So nice to see all of you. Thank you and good morning. Last meeting I was not able to be here. I was so bummed about it, but it was the last couple of days of the school year. So I had to deal with the kiddos, which was great. I have some updates for all of you. First one is that I'm sure this is happening with a lot of schools, but I know my school's reopening in August. And I had the opportunity to work with students during the summer. We just ended summer school last week. And my heart just goes out to all of the students taking on the challenge, and all of the parents and the families taking on the challenge of getting acclimated back to the school. Because it's definitely academically, socially, emotionally, it's challenging. And my prayers and encouragement goes out to all of the interns, student teachers, educators, and teachers who are staying the course, because the impact of online learning has been real, and support is needed by all. It's very much needed. In June, I think it was June, the first week of June, I was able to partner up with SCTA, the Student California Teacher Association, and we put on a workshop about the pathways to becoming an educator. So we were talking to other folks who were aspiring educators and current educators, or people on that path, maybe at a community college wanting to transfer over, and talking to them about that process. And it was an amazing opportunity for me and SCTA to be able to talk with students, answer questions, and really share what's been going on too with the CTC. So that was great. I know that the Assembly Bill 130 has students screaming, I have to say, tears of relief. No joke, people in tears because of this bill, people overjoyed because of having another option besides taking a CSET test, or thinking maybe I can put some courses in, I might have to take this another third time. And some a bit confused on how to move forward, because I know that a lot of our universities are still in the process of pretty much getting the word out and maneuvering students in the right paths and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And they're trying to figure out their own system internally. But I also know that in time, this is just going to aspire more and more aspiring teachers to come into the field. And in addition, with the RICA having the subtest options and online proctoring, I just have to say, like, I'm just so excited about these changes. And it's just been a blessing to be able to see just barriers, like seeing them just like dissipating, falling down. We have a lot more work to do, but I'm just excited on what I'm seeing and the progress that we all are making as a state, and as a commission. So I thank all of you. I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Jones. You've done such a good job of keeping us in touch with the education programs on the ground. Really useful. Are there any other liaison reports? Don't want to leave anybody out. Okay, don't see any. So that concludes the preliminary matters this morning. Very good start to the day. And at this point, I would like to recess the general session and move to the Teacher Educator Preparation Committee headed by Commissioner Martinez. Are you ready, Commissioner Martinez?
I am indeed. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for all the comments previous, and the big shout out to all our educators, as Executive Director Mary Sandy said, and to all of those who prepare our teachers as we begin the new year. I would like to call the August 2021 meeting of the Educator Preparation Committee to order. We have 9 agenda items. 5 of the items are scheduled for today, with 4 more tomorrow. We will announce when public comment period is open following the presentation of each item. Members of the public who wish to comment will be asked to notify the meeting moderator in the following ways. Individuals who join the meeting via Zoom webcast, you can click on the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it's their turn to speak by calling the Zoom ID. Please remember your Zoom ID is the name used when logging into the meeting. At the same time, the individual will be prompted to unmute the microphone and will be able to share their comment. For each item, I will remind you to raise your hand so that we have a sense of how many people will be speaking. And then please remember you'll have 2 minutes. Now, individuals who join the meeting versus phone will need to press the *9 on the phone to inform the meeting moderator they'd like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling out the last 4 digits of the phone number, and will allow them to unmute the telephone. At the same time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share the comment. So with all of our kind of parameters, we will now begin. The first item today is 3A, adoption of subject matter requirements and teaching performance expectations for art, music, and multiple subjects to align with the 2019 California Art Standards for Public Schools. Again, those who want to comment, please raise your virtual hand during the staff presentation so we know the number of people who want to speak. And again, public comments are limited to 2 minutes. So with all of that, this item is being presented by Mike Taylor. This is an action item. Mr. Taylor, will you please begin?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to talk about subject matter requirements, as was mentioned. Specifically, this item presents subject matter requirements for art, music, and multiple subjects to bring them into alignment with the 2019 California Art Standards for Public Schools and for potential adoption by the Commission. The SMRs for dance and theater were approved by the Commission back in April 2020, and that was really the beginning of this process for updating the SMRs for the new 2019 California Art Standards. And at the April 2021 Commission meeting, we presented draft SMRs for art, music, and multiple subjects, and those are now coming back to you for potential adoption. You'll remember that the SMRs are typically one of the first steps in developing new CSET exams. And the development process for CSET examinations is a multi-stage process that follows testing industry standard practices and conforms to the standards for educational and psychological testing. The first 6 steps of this process have already been completed, and they're shown on page 2 of this agenda item. We are now at stage 7 in this process, and the remaining steps of the process involve development of new test items, content and bias review of those items, field testing, and the establishment of a minimum passing standard by the Commission. Since the April 21 Commission meeting, the Commission's examinations contractor, the Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson, has completed a statewide survey to determine if California educators consider the SMRs valid for the content knowledge expected of a preliminary teacher in each of these areas. The survey targeted public school educators, teacher preparation faculty, and subject matter preparation faculty. It asked individuals to respond to various aspects of the applicable SMRs, and the questions asked: first, how important are the knowledge, skills, and abilities described by the competency for acceptably performing the job of a beginning teacher? How well do the set of descriptive statements represent important aspects of the knowledge, skills, and abilities addressed by the competency? And then how well does the subject matter the set of subject matter requirements rather, as a whole represent important aspects of the knowledge, skills, and abilities required for acceptably performing the job of a beginning teacher in each of these content areas. The specific questions used in the survey are listed beginning on page 3 in the item. And on page 4, table 1 shows the number of respondents to each of these surveys. Although the number of respondents was very low for some of the categories, it's not necessarily a problem, as a large sample size isn't really critical for this particular activity. This stage of the SMR development and validity process is more about giving anyone who might have a comment or an opinion on the new proposed standards an opportunity to give that opinion and offer that comment. And that's what the survey did. Looking at the results of the surveys, the mean ratings for multiple subjects are much lower than the means for single subject areas. And I'll mention that the ratings and all of this information can be found in the appendix of this item. Teacher preparation program faculty members, when it came to multiple subjects, overall rated the visual and performing arts competencies proposed as important concepts for beginning teachers. However, the classroom teachers who responded to the survey for multiple subjects did not particularly think these skills were very important. A sample of their comments are listed in Appendix G. However, Education Code requires that the CSETs are aligned to California Student Academic Content Standards for each of the content areas. And the SMRs for CSET multiple subject subtest 3 have always included competencies in the areas of art, dance, theater, and music. And the current version of subtest 3 includes questions measuring competencies in this area. Staff recognizes that because there were many comments suggesting this content is not important for beginning teachers, that further research is needed in this area, but it remains an expectation reflected in the K-12 student standards and curriculum frameworks. As a result of the content validation study, no changes or revisions are being recommended to the draft SMRs as proposed in this item. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt the revised subject matter requirements for art, music, and multiple subject subtest 3. If the Commission adopts the SMRs presented in this agenda item, the standard Commission process for examination development described above will continue based on the adopted SMRs, and we'll be back to the Commission with a recommended passing score for adoption following the initial administrations of the revised examinations. And these SMRs, if approved, will also be disseminated to any subject matter preparation programs in these areas, as that'll be the basis for those programs as well. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Very thorough explanation, and also reminding us of the multiple step process that got us here today. So really, thank you, as always, Mr. Taylor, for such a thorough review. This is an action item, but we're first going to ask for public comment. Recording secretary. Oh, and again, if you have a public comment, please raise your hand virtually or *9 on your phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
We do not have any public comments.
Okay. Just going to give a second, see if anyone raises that virtual hand. Okay, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? And again, this is an action item. Commissioner Jackson, thank you for the virtual hand.
Yes, I appreciate your report and the fact that there's multiple steps to this process. I just wanted to delve a little deeper into the term about further research, given the comments that were given by the teachers in the survey. And I know it was, it wasn't a lot of people in the data set as you stated, but just is there any follow-up or any kind of addressing the comments that were made by those participants?
Yeah, we've been discussing that a lot sort of with the contractor and internally, and we don't have a formal plan for doing research in that area yet at this moment, having just analyzed these comments. And some of it we think is based on a little bit of the way this practices in public schools. For example, if you're in typical elementary schools throughout California, it may be that your classroom teachers are not teaching music in the classroom, but there's a single subject music teacher in the district who travels around, teaching in the various elementary schools. And so that's some of the confusion, but the requirement still remains. And so to a certain degree, we feel like we know, according to statute, we have to align these to the K-12 academic content standards. And so that's what we're doing. But there's definitely something going on where the teachers feel like this isn't really the critical stuff they teach, especially as a beginning teacher.
Other commissioners, do you have a question? Mr. Taylor, just a similar follow-up question to Commissioner Jackson. So the questions that were asked of teachers were their perceptions of teachers, correct? Current teachers specific to these competencies, is that right?
Yeah, for the survey, that was one of the groups that was targeted. This being the end of the process, though, the subject matter advisory panels who drafted these SMRs were made up of educators and educator preparation faculty who are currently working and teaching these standards and working with these standards. And so they did feel like they were important. That group of subject matter experts, that group of teachers did, but the group that responded to the field survey just had a slightly different opinion.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioners, if you have other questions, raise your virtual hand. I'll toggle between my screens, or just raise your hand. Okay. Well, there was one that went up and down. Must have been an accident. Okay, I see Commissioner Heredia.
Just waiting for this plane to go over my house every 5 minutes. Can't open my doors very often. But let me make sure I didn't miss my video.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay, there's my video now. All right, so I think I just want to make a comment. Just taking myself back to my days as an elementary teacher, and then also teaching, at university. I think this is critical, the arts, music and arts. I think so much is taught through music and arts. I think literature can be taught, there's just so much science and everything. So one of the things I just wanted to say is that I think it's a real struggle in schools because, we develop these frameworks and we really try to do our best, but we really need to get support from other entities in terms of a new teacher coming onto, into a campus, and the focus is on meeting the standards for that school, and not a lot of time carved out during the daytime for these subjects. So I just want to, one of those things we can't, you can't mandate. Well, you can mandate, like PE minutes or things like that, but we could recommend, but I just think we really have to push to make sure that our students get the opportunity, because it in my experience, it appears that schools that have more resources are able to offer many of these as music and artist enrichment activities after school, or they're able to maybe think of creative ways to do it throughout the day. But sometimes if you're in a school with, where the students are not as prepared academically, the focus is on trying to meet, and master standards. So I think that's just a big challenge as we go forward. Excited that something is, that we're moving through, just identifying the standards and making sure that we have frameworks and, getting feedback. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I saw enthusiasm from our student liaison Jones. Commissioner Francois, you had your virtual hand up. Did you still have a comment?
I do not. Thank you.
You do not? Okay. I'm going to just look around one more time and see if there's any further discussion. Okay. This is an action item. So do I have a motion to adopt the revised subject matter requirements for art, music, and multiple subjects? Virtual hand or raise your hand. Okay. I see a motion by Commissioner De La Torre. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Heredia. I have a second. Further discussion? Okay. Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain. Recording secretary?
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Again, thank you, Mr. Taylor, for the comprehensive report and for managing this process through the multiple steps. Okay, we're going to move on to item 3B, which is determination of passing scores for the reading instruction, competence assessment subtests. This item is being presented by David DeGeer and Cara Mendoza and Heather Klesch from the Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson. As a reminder, and you guys are going to get tired of hearing me say this, but if you want to comment, please raise your virtual hand during the staff presentation for public comment so we have a sense of the number of people who are wanting to speak. This is an information action item. Ms. Mendoza, will you please begin?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Committee Chair Martinez. Good morning, Commission members. Today's agenda item provides information for the Commission's consideration to determine the passing score for each of the 3 recently subdivided reading instruction competence assessments, otherwise known as RECA written. Joining me this morning is David DeGeer, Director of Professional Services Division, and Heather Klesch from Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson. As we are all aware, the COVID-19 pandemic made it challenging for candidates in educator preparation programs to complete required examinations. Throughout the last year, candidates have been afforded flexibilities through the governor's executive order and by you, Commission members. Additionally, staff has worked with Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson to address challenges brought about by the pandemic. And at the April 2021 Commission meeting, staff presented updates to you relative to CBEST and CSET, which addressed some of these challenges. Moreover, as outlined in Education Code, the Commission is expected to periodically analyze the validity and reliability of the RECA, and the plan for subdividing the RECA written was also presented to you in April. Goals for subdividing the RECA written included making the scheduling of examinations more efficient and to minimize the costs associated with taking the RECA written in the event an examinee does not pass on their first attempt. Using the current RECA content specifications, the RECA written, has been divided into 3 subtests, and Table 1 on page 2 outlines the reconfigured RECA written test design, including the domains covered in each subtest, the approximate number of the multiple choice items, the number of constructive response items, and the testing time. The RECA written subtests were offered via computer-based test administration for the first time on July 26th, and the RECA written subtest will be available for online proctoring the week of August 16th. Because of the new test design for RECA written, it is necessary to determine a new passing score. At this time, I invite David to share with you the recommended passing scores for each RECA written subtest and the process we took for determining those scores. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. As Kara explained, in reconfiguring the RECA written exam into 3 subtests, the content was not changed. Since the content was not changed, Commission staff believed that the pass rates across all 3 subtests should be similar to the 5-year average pass rates provided to the Commission at the June meeting. Psychometricians at Evaluation Systems created a data modeling tool based on the data from 2,374 examinees who took the RECA written exam in 2018 and 2019. The data modeling tool allowed evaluation systems to calculate pass rates for each subtest had the examinees taken the test in that form rather than the original single exam format. The data model allowed for testing different cut scores for both multiple choice and constructed response sections, and for testing different weightings between the sections. After reviewing 6 different models, Commission staff and ES found that the data model most closely aligning to the original pass rates had cut scores of 24 on subtests 1 and 2, and a cut score of 19 on subtest 3, with the multiple choice sections weighted at 80% and the constructed response sections weighted at 20%. Please see the table on page 4 for comparison pass rates disaggregated by candidate reported ethnicity. This model produced an overall pass rate of 63%, which is just above the 5-year average of 62.2%. All disaggregated groups passed at rates no lower than the 5-year average, except for candidates who reported their ethnicity as Asian American or Asian, or did not report an ethnicity. In looking further at the data, it was found that both groups had higher pass rates on the original single exam because they were able to compensate for lower scores on Domain 1 items with higher scores on exam items from Domains 2 through 5. Candidates who take the new reorganized subtest version of the RECA will be able to see on their score reports their specific strengths in reading instruction and areas for improvement. Moreover, they will only have to retake subtests they do not pass and can focus their efforts on the domains covered by that subtest. Staff also believes that preparation programs will be better able to address candidate supports with the new RECA subtest data. Staff recommends that the Commission adopt the following passing standards for the newly structured RECA subtests with a weighting of 80% on multiple choice items and 20% on constructed response items within each subtest. Subtest 1, which includes word analysis and fluency, 24 would be the passing score. Subtest 2, which covers vocabulary, academic language, and background knowledge, as well as comprehension, the passing score would be 24. Planning, organizing, and managing reading instruction based on ongoing assessment, which is covered in Subtest 3, would have a passing score of 17. If the Commission adopts the recommended passing standards, staff will work with the vendor to implement them immediately. The passing standards will be scaled to represent 220 in a range of 100 to 300 and become effective with the score reports to be sent to candidates who took the subtests on July 26, 2021. Staff will also inform teacher preparation programs and candidates of these new passing standards. Finally, staff want to call attention to the inclusion of $2 million in the 2021-22 state budget for a complete review and revision of the RECA. This exam is due for updating, and the format changes to subtests was only a temporary solution. There's currently a bill in the legislature that will provide more direction for this process, and staff will develop a statement of work for a new contract. We are happy to answer any questions commissioners may have.
Great. Thank you so much for taking this up. We'll now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by clicking on the raise hand icon. Participating through Zoom. If participating by phone, press *9. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, there are. Grace Allen, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
And I just want to remind public comments are limited to 2 minutes.
Great, thank you. And excuse my puppy barking in the background if you hear him. Hello, my name is Grace Allen, and I'm a former Oakland Unified School District teacher and a current legal intern on Public Advocates Education Equity Team. We want to thank the Commission for your presentation on item 3B and gathering data to determine the passing score of the new RECA subtests. We would like to quickly draw your attention to 3 issues. First, we appreciate the Commission's proactive stance on reconfiguring the structure of the RECA while SB 488 is pending. We applaud the Commission's effort to minimize the costs associated with retaking the exam in the event that teacher candidates do not pass the first time. However, we are concerned that the nature and quality of the RECA's content have remained unchanged, especially since the exam subject matter is no longer aligned with California's standards for teaching, reading, and literacy. Second, we appreciate the Commission's work to model passage rates disaggregated by race. However, the low and disparate pass rates among teacher candidates of color continue to be concerning. The RECA, which has not been shown to predict effectiveness in the classroom, remains a barrier to teacher diversity. Coursework-based pathways and authentic performance assessments can reduce barriers to entry for teacher candidates by creating multiple pathways to demonstrate literacy competency. Finally, as the RECA undergoes a full review and revision beginning this fall, Public Advocates looks forward to learning the answers to the following questions. First, how long does the Commission expect the new and reconfigured RECA to be operational? And second, will the registration fee to take all 3 subtests at once be the same as the fee to take each subtest individually in the event that candidates prefer to do so? In closing, we appreciate the Commission's work and efforts to eliminate barriers to access for teacher candidates. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. And I like that your dog got the last word there. Recording Secretary, other public comments.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
Okay. The public comment period is now closed. And before the commissioners have their questions or comments, I wonder if the staff want to respond to the questions that our speaker just asked around the fees and around the length of the current and the current test and when we transition. David or Cara, do you have any? Secretary Sandy?
So currently, there is not a way for candidates to register for all 3 subtests at the same rate as the former single test. If the Commission wants us to look into how we might do that, we can work with evaluation systems to see what the options would be. As for the other questions, we do agree that the RECA is out of date. We've had updates to frameworks for English language acquisition and English language development for TK-12 students, and so that will certainly be one of the things that will really guide the work of reviewing what should be required in the RECA in the future versions. One of the things that is unclear right now is whether the bill in the legislature, SB 488, will include a performance assessment requirement. And if that is the case, we'll have to do some research on how we could create a performance assessment for reading instruction, and B, how that might fit in with our current teaching performance assessments that are required right now.
Yeah, makes tons of sense. Thank you for addressing that, Mr. DeGeer. We can now move to commissioners' comments and questions. So commissioners, you have comments or questions, and flag me down or raise your virtual hand as I toggle between two screens. Okay, Student Liaison Jones, and then we'll follow that with Commissioner Brown, and followed by Commissioner Heredia. Thank you. Sorry,
Oh,
Ms.
no,
Jones.
you're fine. You're fine. I have two questions. So the first one is, can you explain more about the cut scores? Because I saw one where it was saying the short answer responses 6, and then the multiple choice would be like 18, and then you said like 24 would be the passing score. Is that an average that you would get on the multiple choice and an average of the short answer? Like, do they have to get that or higher, or can they have a fluctuation? Because in my experience, there's been students who perform very well multiple choice and they'll get like 24 on multiple choice maybe, and they may not do so well in the short answer responses. Are we still allowing that flexibility?
Yes, we are. That's a great question. It is just 24 points on the entire subtest. So yes, if you do better, if candidates do better on the multiple choice, that can work in their favor.
Okay, coolio. And the last question that I have is, can you describe more about what would be given to the students if they did not pass an area in that test, and what would be like an example of what they would receive for feedback?
So we have not seen what the new score reports will look like yet, but in comparison to the previous ones, which were about all 5 subdomains, we will be working with evaluation systems to have more information about because there's only 2 subdomains on each test, each subtest at most. So the feedback that they'll be getting is just focused on those subtests.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. And I really love that, because I know when I didn't pass my CSET, that I got this chart, and it was just kind of telling me my scores, and I needed a little bit more of this, or I needed a little bit more of that as far as knowledge or depth of knowledge. But I do think that being more descriptive of the area that they need to work on, like, yes, there's a lot of different brackets under fluency. So being able to be like, these are the areas under fluency that you should look at a little bit more. I think that would be a lot more helpful. And it can also be telling for a teacher to be like, I need to work on that area as far as my practice goes. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. But thank you so much.
Those are, very helpful comments, especially as we think about developing a contract for the revised RICA, that, we can think about what those score reports should all include, and include that in the specifications.
Thank you so much, David.
Great. Student Liaison Jones, thank you for wanting that kind of feedback and for always providing your experiences and perspective. So thank you so much for that. In order we'll go is Commissioner Brown, then Commissioner Heredia, and then Commissioner Francois and Commissioner Grant-Renewal. And so we'll start with you.
Okay, I am so glad that I'm second, because thank you, Commissioner Jones, because those were 2 of my 3 questions. Was what kind of flexibility is happening now, and what you might anticipate would be better. And the second piece was, what kind of feedback do the students get that would help them do better next time? So those were my 2 questions, and it sounds like they've already gotten some answers. My third question was, and I'm sorry to be so uninformed, but when my primary work is in early childhood and not in the TK-12 level, I'm not as informed as I should be. The RICA is required for students to take, and the governor made some flexibility in terms of when they need to take it. Is it all TK-12 candidates?
It's candidates
in my head, it was always multiple subjects, but that's my other area.
Yeah, it's multiple subjects as well as education specialist.
Okay, yes, okay, that's right. What is the timeline around revising the RECA specifically. Reading competency, reading instruction competency is critical. This has been the main thing, but what's the timeline and the tasks on that?
We've heard that the timeline in SB 488 is likely going to be a requirement of 2025.
Okay.
And, you know, some things that we need to look at are it will take at least a year to develop the new requirements for the RECA, especially if we're going to be looking at it doing something different. And with this new frameworks, we're going to be assessing different things. The second thing is we've got a lot of experience now in developing performance assessments, and the absolute minimum time required to develop a performance assessment is 2 years.
Okay. That's really helpful, because as we look at authentic assessment at any level, I know it's complex, but it's really important that people who want to be teachers and know how to teach reading get to demonstrate that, rather than there being one and only way to show it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown, for those questions. Commissioner Heredia.
So I think part of my question was answered. I was going to ask you to speak to the comment that the RECA content is out of date. Yet we are asked to vote on, like this item and it's been said that it's out of date. So, and it's my understanding that, in order to revise it, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but in order to revise it, it could take up to 2 years once information is understood in terms of what needs to be included. Is that I heard that correctly? Okay. So that's a great concern to me, that that we're still having people take a test that's out of not current. I know that at the university, when the students would take the RECA, we had to provide a lot of support, and we had to provide classes for them so that they could pass this test, which then took time away from the general reading class because of the reason that things were not in sync, so to speak. So that's a great concern to me. And I think you answered my other question was also answered about, so if I am a student and I take the RECA and I don't pass one of the tests, my option is either to come back and take that section again, right? Or hope that my scores are overall, allow me to get a passing score. Is that correct?
No, that's the way that the test used to work when it was just one big long test. So now it's shorter subtests. They're 75 minutes. And if someone does not pass one of them, then the candidate would need to take that again and pass it. But then they would just be taking that subtest.
Just that subtest, not the whole thing again, not entitled with it. Okay. And then, the recommendation from the public comment was, got to go back up here to my notes, was, I'm sorry, I'm looking for that cost. It's just the cost of taking the test. I think that's still a concern. So, okay, I think those, yeah.
And if I could follow up on one thing with, the test being out of date, with such a major change to an assessment that goes across credential areas, we really needed a budget appropriation in order to make the money available to do the study and to pull together teams to work on developing items and then field test it, pilot test it. So we are very appreciative that the money was included in the budget this year.
Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you for the additional information, Mr. DeGeer. Commissioner Francois?
Thank you. First, I want to say I extend my appreciation, particularly for staff helping us to understand the complexity and the complexity related to the timeline of these kinds of changes. And at the same time, I want to echo Commissioner Heredia. I said it right that time, right, Susan? Her concern about the utility of using an outdated test to determine whether or not a candidate can move forward. And I'm concerned about the messaging around that because in my mind, it reinforces exams as gatekeepers, rather than exams as assessing the knowledge, skills, and abilities that candidates need in order to be successful in classroom settings. And so I just wanted to, I want us to always think about that we ought to be removing obstacles in general. But when we know that those gatekeepers are outdated or not necessarily reliable, given the current context, not necessarily valid, then we've got to take a really hard look at whether we should be requiring them at all. And then the other comment that I wanted to make is really in line with what Student Liaison Jones spoke of about the feedback to candidates. I hope that the staff will consider the kind of feedback that teacher preparation programs receive related to candidate performance for the purposes of program improvement and ongoing candidate support. That right now what we get are scores. And we need to drill down a little deeper if we're going to effectively support our candidates to be successful teachers of reading.
Thank you. And it might be helpful to give a little clarification what we mean by out of date. So just like the TK-12 curriculum, our assessments follow standards that are adopted by the state board. So the state board adopted the new frameworks for English language acquisition and English language development in 2019. So when we're saying that the test is out of date, these new frameworks are out there and we need to update the RICA to reflect those. It's very similar to what's happening in K-12 where they are updating their curriculum and updating how they're teaching reading to reflect those updated frameworks. So it's always our exams are always going to lag behind the student standards adopted by the state board.
Great clarification. And before I go to Commissioner Grenner-Shire, Mary Sandy, Executive Director Sandy, did you have a clarification point from earlier? Because I missed your virtual hand. My apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to underscore what David DeGeer was just talking about. The assessment needs to be updated, and that's something that we do with all of our examination programs. That doesn't mean that it is lacking in validity or reliability at this moment. It means that we need to bring it into up to date. I would say that the assessment as constructed right now is not irrelevant to understanding that teachers know how to teach reading. It is highly relevant to that, but it needs to be brought into its next iteration, if you will. We haven't seen what looks like a 180-degree turn from where RICA has been going to a completely new direction. What we've seen are expansions of what the concept of literacy development looks like when we're looking at English language development and English language arts and bringing, understanding the population of students that we're working with in this state. So we are in the process of looking at the specifications for this assessment and talking with experts and looking at current resource documents, and that will be the first task we take up as we see what happens with legislation to calling for us to update the RICA and build the performance assessment form of it. So while we're talking about a 2025 date when we have to have that fully completed, you will have opportunities probably as early as next year to look at the content specifications and consider updates that are needed to keep it current and in alignment, as David DeGeer mentioned, with the current frameworks and standards that have been adopted by the board. So I just wanted to underscore that it may need to be updated, but it is not in any way irrelevant it is simply just getting a little old in the tooth. Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's great context. And then I just also want to follow up with Commissioner Francois. Are you all able, within her comments was a question around the feedback to higher education institutions to teacher prep programs. Is that something you guys can address now in terms of her question / recommendation?
I would ask if Heather Klesch from Evaluation Systems could answer that, because she knows much better than I do what preparation programs can see through Results Analyzer.
And let me just check in with Commissioner Francois. Did I characterize your question appropriately? Thank you. Heather, we can't hear you. It shows you're off mute, so must be your phone, perhaps?
Let's try this. Does that work?
Okay. Very good, thank you.
There we go. Great, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you all. So programs will receive through Results Analyzer the same level of information that candidates will receive in our first upcoming score reporting date of this new subtest model. And those scores will come in by subtest and by domain. So programs should be able to drill down into those domain level performance indicators to understand where their candidates have performed in strength in domains and areas of weakness within a particular domain. But I do appreciate the comments about looking ahead to see if there are things that we can improve on that score report. Now that we are in a subtest structure, we may have some flexibilities to be a little bit more granular and specific in how we report scores back to candidates and to programs. So I would be happy to have our team work with your team there at the PSD and look ahead to improvements that we can make on that. I did want to make one just clarification on the cost regarding the public comment. I wanted to be sure folks knew that the original test was one test at $171. That original test has now been split into 3 subtests, and those 3 subtests were each repriced to be a third of that total assessment cost. So candidates in retaking, if they do have to retake, would only pay that third, that subtest cost on any kind of retake should they need to do that. So the goal was not to increase the candidate expense at all. It was actually to carve it out across the 3 subtests to allow for a more a flexible testing option and economical retake model should a candidate have to retake.
Right, both those are great clarifying points. Commissioner Francois, did you have a follow-up question about the reporting out to the ed prep programs?
I really appreciate that, Heather. That sounds, I'm excited about the possibility of drilling down a little bit deeper. I think program improvement is really important, and our candidates look to us to support them. And when we don't know, we only know what we know. But if I might, Commissioner Martinez, I also want to clarify that I do understand the utility of RICA. My main point, and I don't think that I articulated it well, is around the messaging that when we use words like outdated, and then we have our candidates taking the exam, and it's a high stakes exam for them, right? Then everything that you said made sense to me, that the staff and Executive Director Sandy said. But by and large, our teacher candidates, they will not hear that message. What they hear is that they have to pay to take an outdated test. And if they don't pass that outdated test, they are not going to be able to enter the teaching profession. And I think that this is a challenge that we have in education in general, is that our messaging sometimes doesn't serve us well. And I'm just cautioning. I'm not critiquing.
Yeah, no, that's really very helpful. I appreciate all these clarifying questions and pushes. All right, we're going to move to our very patient Commissioner Greno-Shire to her comments or questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. The benefit of being last in the queue is that many of the questions that were bubbling up in my mind have already been raised by my colleagues. So I want to thank the staff for their comprehensive presentation. And I also want to thank Executive Director Sandy for clarifying the process moving forward and for clarifying that the RICA still has validity and reliability. And I think that's the message that as commissioners, we need to continue to get out to the field, to our teacher prep programs. And then I really appreciate Ms. Klesch's explanation of the costs, because I thought I heard David say that if we wanted to split the costs, we could certainly recommend that, but it sounds like that concern that was raised by our colleague at Public Advocate is not a concern moving forward, given the change. I just want to clarify that. And again, thank the staff.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate the robust conversation on something that is so important. And as we enter this process, do I have any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, okay, great. Commissioner Cardenas.
Just want to thank the staff for clarifying a lot of the questions that we had, and just pay particular attention to, I think, something that one of the attendees brought up is in regards to our quest for diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have 5 years worth of data that shows that a lot of our candidates are not passing, particularly our students, our candidates of color. And so we really have to find a way to continue to assist our students who want to become teachers, because we have such a low teacher pool right now. We're struggling to get substitute teachers. We're struggling to have teachers in the classroom, and especially when schools have started. And so these continuous barriers really hinder our upcoming teachers to be in the classroom with our students. But I do like the direction that we're moving towards. It looks like we're making growth, maybe not substantial growth, but we're making some growth. And that's what we want to do. We want to make progress. And so by modifying the RICA to these subtests, we're making that progress. So I appreciate the commission's effort in really trying to update our RICA so our students can also benefit from it and to provide feedback. But it is concerning, we have 5 years worth of data. This is something that we need to pay particular attention to. And it seems like we are paying attention to that, but we need to be able to continue to assist our students who really want to join our workforce.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Any other questions or comments? I'm just going to assume, Commissioner Gronashire, that you might need to put your virtual hand down, unless you have, okay. All right, by that look, it looks like we're done. Okay, so this is an information action item. And so the motion is to approve the passing scores for the new RICA subtest. And if you need more details, I think that was on page 5 of the document that we received from the staff. So I need a motion to approve the passing scores for the new RICA test. Do I have one? My virtual hands or raised hands? Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay. Commissioner De La Torres. I have a second. Recording Secretary, will you take a vote?
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney.
Aye.
Michael De La Torre.
Aye.
Johanna Howick.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye.
Harry Jackson. Harry
Aye.
Jackson. Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you again, Mr. Gear and Ms. Mendoza and Ms. Klesch for joining in there as well from the evaluation team. So the motion carries and we're going to move on. But before we move on, let's have a quick break. And when I say quick break, we're going to time for 10 minutes. And the reason why we're doing this is that we want to try to finish my items before 12:30 or 1 p.m. So it is now 10:42. We'll just round up if everyone can take 10 minutes. We'll see you, well, we'll try to make a goal of see you 10 minutes before the hour. So feel free to turn your cameras off and we'll see you back in 10 minutes. One more.
and
Michael.
have had to sign up.
Here we go.
But it's.
Well, they're going to have to pull out of New York, too.
All right. We have the voice of Commissioner Chair Cooney. We do. ACTC, you are off mute. And Commissioner Cooney, we need you on screen. Here we go.
Here we go.
Oh, so you're in the office, Michael.
I am.
Wow. Way to go. Brave soul. Hope your travel to Sacramento was good. Okay.
Wish you were here, Monica.
You know, I really thought by August we would have been, right, everyone? I do miss our time together and our after time together. So one day we'll all be back together.
October.
It seems like such a long memory. Yeah, I hope so, really. Okay, so I should check in. Do we have quorum? I think so, CTC staff, but if you can let me know.
Yes, we do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to item 3C. And this is an update on the progress to revise the Bilingual Authorization Program standards and teaching performance expectations. This item is being presented by Miranda Gutierrez and Iori Osamwangi. As a reminder, especially since we're back from break, for those who want to comment, please raise your virtual hand during the staff presentation so we can have a sense of the number of people who will be speaking. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes. This is an information item. CTC, will you please begin?
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Happy almost Friday. This item presents an update on the work to revise the Bilingual Authorization Program standards and the draft Bilingual Teaching Performance Expectations, BTPEs. As you may recall, at the June 2020 meeting, staff presented its plan to work with an expert panel and liaisons from statewide advocacy groups who were tasked to review and recommend revisions to the program standard for the bilingual authorization and to update the pedagogical knowledge, skills, and abilities needed by individuals seeking a bilingual authorization. Fast forward to the February 2021 commission meeting, staff presented a proposed draft of the Bilingual Authorization Program standards and new BTPEs for the commission's initial review. At the end of that meeting, the commission directed staff to conduct a field review of the proposed BTPEs and to seek additional input on the draft standards. Since that meeting, staff have worked collaboratively with the panel members, including the California Teachers Association and the California Associations for Bilingual Teacher Education, to solicit their input and to discuss how the clinical practice component of the draft presented in February might be revised to ensure that requirements were feasible for both concurrent candidates, those earning a preliminary credential and a bilingual authorization at the same time, and teachers who already hold a multiple subject, single subject, or education specialist credential who seek to add the authorization. Moving on to the fieldwork update. A substantial part of the Commission's February 2021 discussion focused on policy issues and implications of the language in the proposed draft standard that called for some type of clinical or field experience for bilingual authorization candidates, which was based on the clinical practice standard for the initial teaching credential program that requires 600 hours. It appeared that a full clinical practice would be expected of bilingual authorization candidates. However, conversations with the expert panel and the stakeholders resulted in the clarification that the bilingual panel was not seeking to implement a full clinical practice experience. Rather, the panel is seeking reasonable and flexible opportunities for candidates to practice teaching in the language other than English and to demonstrate the content and concepts learned. They envisioned that this could be accomplished by candidates in approximately 20 hours of field experience. On page 2 of the item, the panel and stakeholders provided a list of examples of opportunities for field experiences that could be effective and flexible for both concurrent and sequential bilingual candidates. These examples could be included in the program planning questions, PPQs, that guide program sponsors as they design their bilingual authorization programs. At this time, Miranda will provide some update on the work for the BTPEs.
Thank you. So as noted above, part of the panel's work included updating the knowledge, skills, and abilities for the bilingual authorization. The knowledge, skills, and abilities that were updated and recommended at the February meeting came in the form of the bilingual teaching performance expectations, or the BTPEs. The draft BTPEs are organized by the 6 domains of the CSTP, or the California Standards for the Teaching Profession, and they build upon the universal TPEs. The draft BTPEs were sent out for stakeholder review and input between March and April. Survey respondents included a combination of university faculty and school district and county office educators and personnel. Majority of respondents agreed that the draft BTPEs appropriately align with the expectations of a beginning bilingual teacher. Feedback also indicated that several BTPEs should be reviewed for clarity. It was also suggested that the BTPEs include recognizing that there are many students who receive part of their education in California and part in another country. And so it's important that educators understand the transnational dimensions of students and their family. The survey analysis was shared with the panel, and staff's been working collaboratively with the panel to incorporate edits based on the feedback received. The draft BTPEs will be presented with the proposed program standards at a future commission meeting. So Iori mentioned a field experience for concurrent and sequential candidates. The policy issue that has been discussed is the field experience for examination route candidates. As a reminder, the bilingual authorization can be earned 3 ways. The first is by completing a commission-approved program. Second, by taking and passing the corresponding CSETs in enrolled languages. And the third is a combination of approved program coursework and exam or exams. The expert panel, as well as comment during the February 21 commission meeting, expressed strong beliefs that a field experience should be required for candidates who earn the authorization by exam. Staff heard the panel's desire for a field experience and reminded panel members that such a requirement would require legislative action and that the commission has no authority to require field experience for examination candidates. Additionally, panel members urged the commission to update the CSETs for the bilingual authorization. Commission leadership has met with members of the panel as well as COBTE to better understand issues related to the language and culture exams. And as the commission considers its future work on all of the subject matter exams, it's anticipated that the language and culture exams for the bilingual authorization will be addressed. So looking at next steps, staff created a survey for input on the draft program standards, which includes the revised standard on field experience. The survey is now open and will remain open through September 3rd. And stakeholders are encouraged to complete the survey and provide input. There's an active link included on page 4 of the agenda item. The survey takes approximately 15 minutes to complete, so stakeholders are encouraged to provide their input. And a copy of the draft standards can be found in Appendix B of this agenda item, so respondents can review the standards in the appendix before completing the survey. After the survey closes on September 3rd, the data will be analyzed and shared with the panel for further discussion. And staff is planning to bring the proposed program standards and draft BTPEs to the commission at its October meeting for possible adoption. And to add a little enthusiasm to Commissioner Francois's comments about the increase in bilingual education and preparing bilingual teachers, There's been an increase in the number of bilingual authorization teacher preparation programs. Already this calendar year, the Committee on Accreditation has approved 7 new programs. There are 3 on the August 16th agenda, and additional institutions have submitted or have expressed interest in submitting a new program. So this concludes the agenda item, and staff can answer any questions.
Okay, so sorry, my computer just went a little wacky on me, but we're fine. All right, thank you so much for this information. And this is an information item only. I do want to open this up now to the public, and remember, for public comments, please raise your virtual hand on Zoom or hit *9 if you are calling in. Recording secretary, do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do. Harold Acord, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Harold Acord, and I'm speaking on behalf of the 300,000 members of the California Teachers Association. I'm a classroom teacher in Moreno Valley, California. And before I came to California, I started out my career in education as an aide in a bilingual classroom for bilingual migrant workers' children. And I also taught a 5th and 6th grade class for bilingual migrant workers' children in Flint, Michigan, where I'm originally from. We do have some concerns, and I'll just say that the whole theme of our concerns is around the question why. When we've met with the commission representatives, our big question and what we're still trying to get through is the why around the field experience. So we do appreciate the clarification that's provided in this item, specifically that the intent was not to impose a 600-hour clinical practice requirement. With regard to the 20-hour field experience requirement, we would like to pose some questions for further inquiry on the part of the commission, and we're happy to provide these questions to you in writing too. First question is, what is the specific rationale behind that number of hours? The second, in looking at the examples of possible field experiences in item 3B, it strikes us that this list provides very different types of experience that would demonstrate very different skills or competencies. What specific skills or competencies are being addressed with the field experience? How do these options specifically demonstrate the skill and/or capacities? How do the hours map to the field experiences? And finally, does the benefit of this requirement offset the barriers that it could create for teacher candidates in such a field that already has many shortages? We are concerned that the concept of a field experience requirement uniformly imposed on everyone seeking a bilingual authorization, regardless of their breadth of experience, does not have the level of intentionality or coherence that we have come to appreciate and expect from the Commission. We encourage you to refine this component, and please weigh it against the potential barriers and obstacles it creates for teachers seeking a bilingual authorization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Acord. Recording secretary, do we have other comments?
Shilpa Ram, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning. My name is Shilpa Ram, and I'm a senior staff attorney at Public Advocates. I'd like to thank the presenters and the Commission very much for monitoring and prioritizing this issue. As we know, California has contended with an acute teacher shortage for some time, one that's worsened with the pandemic. And this teacher shortage has been especially pronounced in the field of bilingual education. We can see the manifestations of this teacher shortage in a recent CTC California Educator Data Supply Report. It shows that in 2019-20, 1,488 bilingual authorizations were issued, approximately 28% of which were to teachers on intern credentials, permits, and waivers. Such a high percentage of permits and waivers is a proxy for the bilingual teacher shortage and indicates that the demand for bilingual teachers exceeds the supply. We have a question for the Commission. We noted in a 2017 report from the Learning Policy Institute that there were only 30 teacher preparation institutions that offered bilingual authorization training programs, compared with over 80 that grant secondary and elementary teaching certifications. And the number may be a bit higher now. Commissioner Francois mentioned this morning that UC Berkeley and UC Davis have strong programs that have issued a number of bilingual authorizations in Spanish, math, and Mandarin. We were wondering if you were aware of concerted efforts in place to increase the number of teacher preparation programs that offer interested candidates the opportunity to earn a bilingual authorization. I was so happy to hear just now from Miranda Gutierrez that additional programs have been approved and more approvals are pending. So I just was hoping to hear a little bit more about other concerted efforts that may be in place to increase the number of teacher preparation programs that offer the bilingual authorization. Our wonderful multilingual learners deserve the opportunity to enroll in strong bilingual programs and receive instruction from prepared teachers. Thank you again for your attention to this issue and the opportunity to comment.
Thank you for your comments and taking the time to call in and do that. Recording Secretary, other comments?
There are no additional comments.
Okay, let's give it a second. Make sure we don't miss anybody. Okay, I'm now going to close the public comment period for this item. This is an information item, so no actions needed at this time. Before we move to commissioners' questions, do staff want to address some of the questions that were raised during the public comment period around the increased number of teacher prep programs for bilingual authorization, around the field-based experience, in terms of the hours and the competencies?
I can first speak to the preparation programs. The speaker noted that 2017 report, there were 30 preparation programs, and currently there are 42 approved bilingual authorization preparation programs, with 3 additional pending approval for the August 16th Committee on Accreditation meeting. With respect to the field experience hours, we've definitely heard Mr. Acord's comments and comments we've heard from our other stakeholders, and we're happy to keep working with all stakeholders to get this ironed out and to find an experience that would be reasonable for candidates.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez, for responding to those. Well, let's move into questions and comments by commissioners. Go ahead and raise your virtual hand, flag me down, and we'll start with Commissioner Simmons.
I just want to say that I've got three things. I really do appreciate the clarification on the 20 versus 600 hours. I think that that's extremely helpful, and it clarifies what would have been an insurmountable barrier to people who are already in the classroom, already fully employed, working as teachers, and they are our best people to learn new skills because they've already demonstrated excellence in the 6 CSTP that we're just adding to their training to be able to be get a bilingual authorization. It should be noted, though, that 20 hours is not insubstantial. That's basically 5 days of work if we're talking like a regular observation participation, which is sort of what the bullets seem to look like. 5 days is a big deal right now. In prior years, I would have been able to grant that release time for those teachers easily. Now, where I have maybe 1 substitute per school, granting any kind of release time during the school day for any kind of training is extremely difficult. So while I'm very happy that we're talking 20 hours rather than 600 hours, 20 hours is still going to be a problem for people to be able to do. The other thing I want to mention is that I think that it's important that we distinguish between initial documents and bridge documents, or whatever it is that we call them. I think in the item you guys referred to it as concurrent versus sequential. Because of those same reasons, when we have really remarkable teachers out there who have already been proven, they have a preliminary or clear credential, they've already gone through a TPA, they've passed the RICA, all these things, and they should get credit for that as an experienced professional. The other thing I also wanted to address was the issue with the CSET, and this may be
What's up, CTC?
You are in the meeting now.
Do you think we're close? Or
Yeah, we are. As soon, okay. David, can you hear me? David? Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah.
Is it back on?
can you hear us, Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
Okay. 10
me
minutes
see if
was too long. I think we should just make sure we still have a quorum, and we're ready to proceed as soon as that is established.
All right, let me, so commissioners who are off camera, if you're around your laptop, computer, please come back. Recording secretary, I don't know if you want to reach out to Commissioner Francois, Jackson, Heredia, and De La Torres. Oh, we got Commissioner Francois. All right, Commissioner Jackson. You guys tell me when we're at quorum, you know best. Right now and here comes Commissioner De La Torres. So we have two more commissioners that video-wise are not on yet. So you all tell us when to start. There we go. We've got our next questionnaire, Commissioner Heredia up as well. And we're just waiting for Commissioner Cardenas. Thank you everyone for being so flexible and not leaving your laptop too far so we can start back up. Recording secretary, do we have quorum?
Jose hasn't come on, but Anna Marie is on. So if you guys want to start, because Anna Marie is the one was selected as stepped in as a voting member. So.
Okay. So we'll go with our next question or comment, which is Commissioner Heredia, and then we'll move on to Commissioner Francois. So I sort of kind of reconvene us, even though we never unconvened, just to make sure that everyone knows the recording is back, the system is working, and we're going to continue moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, I'm off mute. I just want to echo the thanks for reducing from 600 to 20 hours. That would have been a hurdle that a lot of people couldn't overcome. But I also want to focus on what the one of the speakers' public comments about the flexibility. There is flexibility with those 20 hours. But I do think it's important. Are we looking at the 20 hours of flexibility as kind of an enrichment in a particular setting of that candidate's choice and that candidate's instructors? Or are we looking at the 20 hours as something that at the end of that experience, there'll be an assessment of what the candidate gained? Because I think that's probably an experience that we don't have a lot of information in terms of just, again, the purpose What do you hope to gain? As the speaker said, what competencies, what skills, what knowledge do you need to have as a result of that experience? Or again, is it just for familiarity in another setting? Thank you.
CTC, do you want to address that? I know that it was brought up earlier, or do you want to move forward with Commissioner Francois and answer after our second question?
I can speak to that a little bit. So the candidates will need to be introduced, practiced, and assessed on the BTPEs. And so those could come in the form of their field experience. So there would be a chance for them to be assessed in that manner as well, or through their coursework on the BTPEs.
Okay, so again, help me to understand. So there is an assessment. So there have to be some intentionality in terms of where those 20 hours take place then, correct? In order to assess. It's not, there's another 20 hours.
Yeah, and the programs would, when they complete their course matrix, they determine where the competencies are introduced, practice, and how they're assessed as well.
Okay, and that's left to each institution, each program, whatever, just to kind of make that determination.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you both. Commissioner Francois?
Thank you. I wanted to speak to the speaker's comments from public advocates about the quantity, quality, and accessibility of bilingual authorization programs in the state. And I think that as I look at the UC system, 7 of our 9 campuses have long-standing bilingual authorization programs that, as I said before in my earlier comments with enthusiasm, are seeking ways to be innovative and responsive in the state. And I think the challenge for us is how do we recruit folks into going into bilingual authorization programs? And so 2 of the innovations that UC is really kind of leaning into is creating programs at the undergraduate level for particularly at UC Davis. I'll use them as an example. They have a program called Porter at Aggie, Preparing for Multilingual California. And they use this program to encourage bilingual undergraduate students to consider a career in teaching. And they use some of the curriculum and have them, preparation for CSETs to get them ready to not only come into teacher preparation, but to come into teacher preparation programs with the added authorization, right? And then the other thing is, how do you recruit experienced teachers? Because I think that Commissioner Simmons mentioned this really important challenge that we have is, when do experienced teachers have the time and capacity to seek the bilingual authorization? So one of the ways that we try to tackle that at UCLA is that we have partnered with our language departments, like the Department of Francophone Studies, Portuguese, et cetera, to create summer intensive bilingual authorization program for practicing teachers. And we partner with the school district to find when is the sweet spot to begin and end those intensives so that it's accessible and doable for veteran teachers. And that's the kind of, I think, creative thinking that all of us are doing. I'm going to go ahead, Commissioner Grant-Renewal, and say CSU is at the cutting edge of this work around bilingual education. So, I just want to, I'm totally jazzed and thrilled about, number one, the standards. I think these standards in bilingual education, for me, reflect the kind of a commitment to diversity, to inclusion, to equity, to really lifting up the lived experiences of bilingual students in California and addressing that head on and setting expectations for meeting the needs of those students, and opening up opportunities, I think, of the clinical practice. While I agree with the appeal of things being uniform, I think it's kind of, there's a contradiction because we also know that there are varying ways to demonstrate knowing and to various ways that you can engage around, around your learning, and offering options for candidates is really reflective of the multiple measures and the multiple ways of being, multiple ways of acquiring and assessing that I think the CTC is moving toward. So I think the future of bilingual education in California is bright. And again, there's lots of innovation. And maybe what we need to do is we need to start informing the general public in California about what that innovation is.
Thank you so much for really that lovely description of what's happening outside just the numbers and the creativity. I love learning from our other commissioners, so thank you, Commissioner Francois. Commissioner Simmons, you want to come back into this conversation?
When Commissioner Commissioner Francois, when she spoke of UCLA, I had to say, I have sent candidates to UCLA because it is such an excellent program. And I've had people complete, many of whom had trouble passing the CSET. And the language supports that UCLA provided were just amazing. And I have bilingual teachers now that I wouldn't have had if it were not for UCLA. So the way they do that, I truly want to give them kudos for that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you both and everyone else. This is an information item, so no action is needed at this time. Are there any other questions or comments by the commissioners and anything else CTC wants to address from the previous comments or questions? All right. Then I'm going to close this out and thank our wonderful CTC staff, Ms. Osamwanyi and Ms. Gutierrez, for bringing us this information around our bilingual authorization and standards. All right. With that, we are going to move to item 3D. Item 3D is an update on the work of the early childhood education design teams under the Preschool Development Grant-Renewal and proposed program quality peer review process. This item is being presented by Phyllis Jacobson, Cassandra Henderson, Deborah Keeler and Amy Reesing, and June Melovic of Saddleback Community College. As a reminder, for those who want to comment, please raise your virtual hand during the staff presentation. So we have a sense of the number of people wanting to speak, and you will be limited to 2 minutes. With that as context, again, this is an information item. Ms. Jacobson, will you please begin?
Yes, and good morning, commissioners. This agenda item provides an update on the work of 2 design teams under the Preschool Development Grant Renewal. One of the design teams is working to develop and pilot the new ECE teaching performance assessment for the teacher level of the child development permit. And the second design team is working to develop and pilot a new program quality peer review or accreditation system designed specifically for programs that prepare the early childhood workforce. Within this update, the draft peer review process developed by the design team is presented for information. The work being done by these 2 design teams is providing foundational tools for improving preparation and licensure for the early childhood workforce. Currently, the child development permit is not subject to standards or any state level accreditation process and does not include a performance assessment to support the development of candidate competency prior to licensure. This work will help bring the child development process into alignment with all other credential areas, and as well in alignment with the direction provided by the state's master plan for early learning and care. I'd like to emphasize that the work we're reporting on in this agenda item represents early phases of work within a much longer term trajectory to move to a competency-based system of preparation and licensure for the ECE workforce and should be considered in that context. This current work is supported by the conceptual framework of the ECE teaching performance expectations that the Commission adopted in 2019, as well as the ECE program guidelines or standards, also adopted by the Commission in 2019. There are presently what we're calling ECE pilots being implemented with 55 institutions of higher education that prepare the ECE workforce. These institutions have volunteered to work towards implementing TPE-aligned curriculum and working towards meeting the program guidelines. Debbie Keeler will describe these 4 pilots to you in greater detail shortly. The 55 institutions are identified in Appendix C, and they include 41 community colleges, 9 CSU campuses, 1 UC campus, and 4 private or independent colleges and universities. Due to the focus of the PDGR grant that is supporting this work, the 4 pilots, as well as the ECE teaching performance assessment, are concentrating on the teacher level of the child development permit. The 2- and 4-year institutions of higher education that prepare this workforce use curricula that are either presently aligned with the TPEs or, as part of participation in the ECE pilots, are in the process of becoming TPE aligned. Similarly, institutions have self-analyzed their own status with respect to being in alignment with the program guidelines, and they have identified where they think they need to work further to come into full alignment over the next 2 years. Information about the baseline characteristics and the status of these 55 pilot institutions is provided in Appendix D. All of the pilot institutions are expected to be implementing both TPE-aligned curriculum and making at least substantial progress towards meeting the program guidelines by the end of the PDGR grant funding in December of 2022. Now Debbie Keeler will provide a brief overview of these 4 ECE pilots and what the benefits to institutions are for participating in these pilots. And may I just say before Debbie begins that the pilots are still open. If anyone hearing this is interested in stepping forward and joining the pilots, those institutions and programs are welcome. And now, Debbie Keeler.
Thank you, Phyllis. Under the Preschool Development Grant Renewal effort and the Master Plan recommendations, the Commission's activities support 4 major pilots for the purpose of a statewide implementation of the ECE teaching performance expectations and the ECE program guideline standards. This includes a $3 million effort supported by the PDGR grant over 2 years, potentially adding a 3rd-year extension. The pilots are targeting primarily for ECE preparation programs that prepare candidates for the ECE teacher level of the permit. Pilot 1 includes the implementation of a teaching performance expectation aligned curriculum with participating ECE preparation programs. Pilot 2 addresses work towards meeting the program guidelines supported by outreach and technical assistance to participating programs. Pilot 3 develops and pilots a new TPE-based ECE teaching performance assessment. The focus of the TPA will be assisting and training ECE preparation programs, trying out formative candidate assessment tasks, and score candidate responses locally. The process is moving through a 2-year development cycle that includes a pilot test and field test with the system available for full operation the fall of 2023. Pilot 4 focuses on the development of a new ECE program quality peer review system with commission review and approval of ECE preparation programs, aka accreditation. The participating programs will provide feedback on the design and implementation to the commission staff. Pilots 3 are open to any interested program offering ECE preparation for the child development permit, whether or not the program is also participating in pilots 1 and 2. The institutional benefits to programs participating in the ECE pilots include the opportunity to organize their program around a common set of statewide competency expectations for the ECE workforce, work with candidates and provide feedback about the new ECE TPA and scoring process, participate and provide feedback about the new program quality peer review process, and directly recommend candidates for all levels of the child development permit, thereby facilitating priority permit application processing in less time than candidates applying directly to the Commission. Phyllis Jacobson will share more about the baseline reporting data and the description of the 2 design teams, including their work.
Thank you, Debbie. The pilot institutions have agreed to provide the Commission with certain data. And these data include a course list showing where the TPEs are covered within their curriculum and their self-assessment of where they stand in relation to meeting the program guidelines and the amount of work they feel they would have to do and in what areas to fully meet these guidelines. As part of their ongoing reporting requirements, they will be asked to provide annual candidate enrollment data, feedback from faculty and from candidates about their program experiences and outcomes, and feedback to the Commission regarding lessons learned, best practices, and any recommendations going forward based on what they have learned through their participation in these pilots. And now we'll turn our attention specifically to the work of the Program Quality Peer Review Design Team. The membership of this design team, along with liaisons to and observers of this work, is provided in Appendix E. The design team members represent a variety of institutions, practitioners, and contexts. And there are liaisons from the CDE, the Community College Chancellor's Office, and West Ed, which is helping the Master Plan Committee to coordinate a variety of efforts at the state level. The design team has held 5 virtual meetings thus far. And at the 5th meeting, the group came to consensus on the draft program quality peer review system, the graphic of which is provided on page 11 of the agenda item. I personally can't say enough about the dedication, hard work, and collegial spirit exemplified by the members of this design team, all working together to address the charge to the team, which was to develop a program quality peer review or accreditation system appropriate for early childhood education programs. To do this work early on, we established some quality lenses by which our work should constantly be viewed and analyzed. These qualities are that the work that we do should be feasible given the state's ECE context. It should be manageable in terms of complexity and local resources available. It should provide convincing evidence of program quality in relation to the Commission's adopted guidelines. It should rely on peer professional judgments of program quality based on the range of evidence provided. And it should be equitably accessible by all preparation programs, regardless of the size, candidate population, or geographic location. Almost immediately during our meetings, it became evident that we had overlooked a very important additional lens, which was very quickly added, and that is assuring that the process being developed reflected a collegial inquiry peer-to-peer approach. Page 9 of the agenda items lists some of the activities and resources the design team engaged in to help stimulate their thinking about what qualities the new ECE peer review system should exemplify, and which aspects, if any, of existing accreditation systems were seen as desirable to adopt or adapt for the new ECE system. Next, June Ilovich will provide you with an overview of the peer review system as a whole and walk you through each of the basics of the components as designed by the design team.
Thank you, Phyllis. I'd like to point your attention to page 11 of your agenda, where you'll find the graphic representation of how the design team envisioned the 4 components of the ECE program quality peer review process to flow. And central to the process is the self-study, which is developed and refined by the preparation program in the first 2 stages, and then reviewed for approval consideration in the 3rd and 4th stages. In the initial self-study development, programs will be guided by a suggested template, which will be shared with them as part of an orientation to the process. It is anticipated that each program self-study will uniquely represent the characteristics and philosophies of the individual institutions who are developing them. And preparation programs will be encouraged to use as much already existing data collected for other program and institutional purposes as possible, as much of it will be directly related. And examples of these types of data might be the distinctive features of the institution or program or student population, local community,
It could be curriculum and student learning outcomes that are planned and assessed at the local level, as well as student learning outcomes from the new ECE teaching performance assessment. It would include descriptions of practicum and fieldwork placements and feedback from students, alumni, or other program stakeholders. And finally, the study would also include the preparation program's own reflection on the degree to which it sees itself meeting or making progress towards the ECE's adopted ECE program guidelines. With a completed initial self-study, the programs would move to the second component. And in the peer-to-peer collegial discussions, similar programs will be paired, giving an opportunity for each to gain feedback and insight on the program's strengths and areas for improvement. Programs would then use what was learned through these peer-to-peer discussions to refine and finalize their self-study for the next component, the peer review and virtual site visit. In this step, peer reviewers who would have completed specialized training for their roles review the program's self-study and conduct the visit, which is their opportunity to hear firsthand from program staff, students, and others about their experiences with that program. In preparation for step 4, approval and continuous improvement cycle, the peer review team will come to a consensus on a program approval recommendation to present to the Committee on Accreditation for their decision. Options for the recommendation are approval, approval with conditions, or not approved. Approval programs can directly recommend candidates for the permit, and then they would also begin the ongoing improvement cycle. Programs with identified conditions will be revisited within a specified period of time. It is envisioned that when and if fully implemented, the continuous improvement cycle would take place over a 7-year period. I'll hand this back now to Phyllis for a review of the pilot for this process.
Thank you, June. So the next step in our design team process will be to move forward to actually trying out this new system. We anticipate piloting the peer review system starting in winter, spring of 2022, when TPA data will become available as an important source of data within a multiple data source approach. Between now and then, we will be busy designing and presenting webinars informing the field about the process, orienting those institutions that will actually be trying out the new process, developing training for the peer reviewers, as well as those participating in the peer-to-peer collegial interactions within Component 2, and also working to support the pilot institutions in general. We anticipate providing information back to the Commission on the findings of the pilot implementation of the peer review system in December of 2022. This concludes the update on the work of the program quality peer review design team. Now, Amy Rising will introduce the report on the work of the ECE Teaching Performance Assessment Design Team.
Thank you, Phyllis. Good morning, Commissioners. Still 20 minutes before noon. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to Cassandra Henderson, who is actually going to walk you through the work of the Performance Assessment Design Team for ECE. She is a consultant, our newest consultant joining the Performance Assessment Team. And so with that, I will turn it to Cassandra.
Thank you. The ECE design team is comprised of a diverse group of practitioners from the early childhood field, appointed by our executive director, Dr. Mary Vixie Sandy. Members, observers, and liaisons, listed in Appendix E, represent varied regions across the state of California. In addition, we are joined by the Professional Services Division ECE consultants, Phyllis, Deborah, and June. The liaisons include the California Department of Education, Early Learning and Care Division, the California Department of Education, Department of Social Services, the Parent Network in Los Angeles, and the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office. In addition, we have an observer from WestEd of the Early Childhood Integrated Policy and Systems Division. The ECE Cal TPA design team is charged with developing a teaching performance assessment model for the Commission's consideration as a potential future statewide assessment for early childhood education teacher permit candidates. The recommended teacher performance assessment model must be feasible given the state's ECE context, be manageable in terms of complexity of the system and local resources, provide convincing evidence of teacher knowledge, skills, and abilities in relation to the Commission's
adopted ECE teaching performance expectations and assessment design standards. It must rely on local professional scoring judgments of teacher performance based on the range of evidence and analytic rubrics. And the complete charge to this design team is noted on page 6 of the agenda item. To date, we have met 5 times via Zoom, with meetings taking place monthly over a day and a half. We have prioritized the ECE teaching performance expectations that will be measured on the ECE teaching performance assessment. ECE design team members have had the opportunity to view, discuss, and ask questions pertaining to the existing range of the Commission's performance assessments, which include the Cal TPA for General Education as well as the Ed Specialist Cal TPA. To inform the collaborative process and provide design team members with background information, members have participated in a variety of activities as noted on pages 6 and 7 of the agenda item, including a presentation by the Ed Specialist design team. The California Department of Education presented ECE dual language learner pedagogy and policy, and a presentation focused on early math pedagogy. Culminating from the spring work, CTC and Evaluation Systems Division of Pearson staff have developed draft prototypes of ECE assessment guides, rubrics, and a glossary of terms and presented them to ECE design team members for their review and feedback. As we move forward into the fall, ECE design team members will collaboratively determine the number of learning cycles within the ECE TPA, continue to examine and provide high-level feedback for draft prototypes of assessment guides, analytic rubrics, evidence templates, and the glossary, collaboratively determine and prioritize assessor qualifications, keeping in mind that this TPA will be locally and not centrally scored, serve an integral role in encouraging teacher preparation programs to participate in a pilot test which will begin winter of 2022, provide expertise to assist with the development of local training of assessors. In the spring of 2022, the ECE design team will review pilot test findings and provide feedback to direct additional revisions as CTC and ES staff prepare to field test in 2022 through 2023. And the team will continue to interact with the peer review ECE design team to ensure that the work remains integrated between the peer program review process and the ECE performance assessment development. Next, Phyllis Jacobson will discuss additional next steps.
Thank you, Cassandra. I'd like to update the Commission with some additional next steps in our ECE-related work in alignment with the master plan. Both of these next steps will be focused on establishing multiple accessible pathways to a child development permit or credential, authorizing service in state preschool and transitional kindergarten. We will be revisiting needed changes to the child development permit in light of the master plan, the PDGR grant work, and the implementation of universal TK. And we will be reviewing pathways for service in transitional kindergarten settings. An overview of both of these efforts is provided on pages 17 and 18 of the agenda item. And we conclude our presentation with a final reminder that what we have shared with you today represents early stages of work within a longer-term plan to move towards a fully developed competency-based system of preparation and licensure for the early childhood workforce. And we're happy to respond to any questions.
Great. Thank you so much. And we have public comments for sure. And I'm going to turn this over to recording secretary to call on our public comments. And remember, brevity is key here, 2 minutes. And let's see. I think do we have Deb, recording secretary, can you tell us our public comments and call on them, please?
Yes, first is Jan Fish. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Thank you very much. I am here as a CSUN early childhood faculty member, as co-lead of PEACH, and as a proud member of the ECE TPA design team, as well as a faculty member on the leadership team of the new Cal Baccalaureate program group formed this year that has filed written comments I want to apologize that I submitted our Peach written comments too late to be uploaded last night. I would like to pass them on for your information. We thank the Commission for all of its work described in item 3D and today by the presenters. Faculty from Peach involved in both design teams and the TPE implementation pilot helped to prepare these written comments that I referenced, as well as with bring it real drive and enthusiasm and attention to equity and an appreciation of the CTC staff on the design teams that welcome and respect our ECE expertise. And that work does proceed with support, expertise, grace, and courtesy among all. I want to acknowledge too that there are two shared concerns between the Cal Baccalaureate programs and the Peach members who prepared this comment. First, we really urge CTC to engage system level representatives from all 4 higher education systems, not only the California Community College Chancellor's Office, in the pilots to facilitate support and equitable access for students to ECE preparation across the community colleges, Cal States, the UCs, and the private universities. Also, we urge in common a shared formal acceptance of NAYC preparation program accreditation as an alternative to our newly designed or designing peer review accreditation.
Dr. Fish, I just want to add that you're past time, so we'll need you to wrap up your second point.
I'm wrapping. That's the second point. In addition, Peach faculty would like to give serious consideration throughout the process by all 4 systems of higher ed to the costs that are institutional and student based. So thank you again for all of this work, and I really truly appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fish, and sorry we had to interrupt you. Recording secretary, do we have other public comments?
Yes, Sandra. It might be Sandra Moe. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, and we've set the timer for 2 minutes, Sandra.
Okay, thank you. I'm faculty at Rio Hondo College who are participating in the pilot that was just described. I'm also the permit verification completion lead on my campus and a co-lead for the Peach Child Development Permit Work Group. It is appreciated that item 3D acknowledges the current CD permit application process remains in place on campuses across the state as the pilots are conducted. Our concern today is focused on the concept and scope of candidate for the teacher level CD permit in the pilots. Child development permit candidates differ from credential candidates. To ensure equity and a reflection of reality, the pilots need to be inclusive of all of who might apply for the teacher level child development permit. These individuals may pursue their education at 2-year, 4-year, and graduate programs and institutions and apply for the permit after meeting the permit requirements. In addition, candidates may work in the ECE field, which is very diverse, as they complete their coursework and could make slow progress. And they could even change their end goals in that process. Candidates may switch from another major to ECE, or they may transfer from another IHE institution to build on their ECE qualifications. Without considering this broad ECE teacher preparation landscape and adjusting the definition of candidate in the pilot that defines it in its definition is incomplete, and this might affect the pilot results. And thank you so much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you for being so concise as well. As just a reminder for folks, you raise your virtual hand on Zoom, or if you're calling in, just hit *9. Recording secretary, do we have other public comments?
Yes, next is Kelly Reynolds. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kelly Reynolds, Senior Policy Analyst for Early Edge California. Early Edge greatly supports the Commission's efforts to align its work with the recommendations in the Master Plan for Early Learning and Care and move towards a competency-based teacher preparation system. The Master Plan recommends that TPEs and Child Development Permit be updated to better reflect the expectations to care for dual language learners. We recognize that the TPEs can be further strengthened to incorporate dual language learners to specific competencies, and we look forward to seeing the Commission move these recommendations forward. Secondly, as the Commission moves forward on reviewing pathways to TK credentialing, we encourage the Commission to consider a P3 approach that creates a streamlined teacher preparation process and aligned early learning system as we expand TK to serve all 4-year-olds. Thank you for your important work in supporting early learning teacher preparation. Early Edge would like to serve as a resource to the Commission and participate in stakeholder engagement related to the TK and state preschool credential pathways. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Recording secretary, more comments? Yes, I see.
Deborah Stipek, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Thank you. I'm Deborah Stipek. I'm a faculty member at Stanford, and I've been working with the Commission on various task force and so on for a while now. I want to say that I'm delighted to see all the ways that the Commission is taking the lead to improve the preparation and quality of teachers working with young children. I really want to compliment the Commission's staff on their skill in organizing and supporting the task forces that they've described for you today. The ECE performance expectations are critically important in that they serve as a clear guide for what higher ed programs need to focus their attention on. I'm also heartened by the genuine efforts that both 2- and 4-year colleges are making to align their programs with the TPEs. But I want to make sure the Commission understands what an incredibly huge lift this is for higher ed. With current resources and the way most programs are organized, they cannot realistically come close to preparing teachers to meet these expectations. The CAP 8, which comprises the courses that students take for the lead teacher permit, includes all of the elements of the TPEs. But if you look at any one of the course outlines, it contains more topics than could be covered meaningfully in a year, let alone in a course. So the 24 units required for the teacher permit is simply insufficient. Also, the kind of supervised practical experiences that are necessary to develop the skills described in the TPEs just aren't realistic for most programs. So I hope the Commission will be advocates for significant change in the permit requirements, or even better, developing a P3 credential, as was mentioned previously, and become advocates for additional resources for higher ed, because without that, we're not really going to see the kind of improvement in the preparation of early childhood teachers that all the work that you are doing is designed to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time and expressing your comments. Recording secretary, next.
Carol Gossett, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning. This is Dr. Carol Gossett, Fresno Pacific University. I am the director of the early childhood programs there. First, I want to thank the Commission for including private universities in the pilot at work and the design teams. I am serving on one of the design teams, and I serve on Peach. I just want to really say thank you, and please encourage you to keep including privates and 4-year colleges in the process, as we have multiple candidates going through our bachelor's degree programs, coming to us with a variety of experiences. Some have not gone through community college first, the majority have, but to take on the TPAs, the CAP, NAEYC, etc., is a huge load. My program is already based on NAEYC. We're moving toward CAP and including all the TPEs. I understand that TPAs will be coming almost after the fact during these pilots, and I would like to encourage you to move the TPA information forward to those of us who are in the pilots so that we know where to concentrate our efforts at first if we have to make a decision on which ones to cover. It's a huge task and without extra resources as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Recording Secretary, any other public comments?
Just giving it a moment. I'm not seeing any additional requests.
Okay. As you said, we'll just give it a moment for a sec for any virtual hands or call-ins. Okay. We will now close the public comment period and thank all those who called in, and thank you also for abiding by the time restrictions. So commissioners, this is an information item, no actions needed at time, and now we open it up to questions or comments by commissioners on this item. I would have been so sad if I didn't see Commissioner Brown's hand go up first. Commissioner Brown, the floor is yours.
And I'm glad to see some smiles on my fellow commissioners' faces as I weigh in. Thank you. Isn't it amazing how far we've come, Commission? And thank you to our Executive Director, Sandy, for continuing to support bringing in the teachers of our youngest California citizens into the public educational sphere. Hooray! And I really appreciate the public comments as well as the written comments that have been submitted. And I think that for that, I have 5 pages of notes, and I'll try to keep it short. I'll try to keep it brief because I know this isn't the end of the line. This is another opening of this line. What I will say is that the concerns that have been described around making sure that all 4 of the institutions of higher education systems be involved is critical. And the community colleges totally support that. And I look at my colleague, June Milovich, around that, hi June, because we built those curriculum alignment project, we built those courses to be foundational basic courses, and they are. And the fact that they align with what's been built as the teacher level of the permit in terms of the teacher performance expectations is remarkable. And I have to say, I would have to agree with Deborah Stipek. It's more than 24 units can do. And when you think about what it takes to develop a beginning elementary teacher, we know that developing a beginning early childhood teacher is on the same par. And therefore, what I would do is agree with our public comments around making sure that we look very carefully at what it takes to work with young children, including into the beginning of elementary school. And so the suggestion of several about looking at doing this work alongside the development of a P2-3 or P2-2 credential, I think is absolutely essential. Or the early childhood workforce and its teacher preparation, once again, drop out for our second-class citizens in the credentialing program. And I think we really, really don't want that. We're ready to move up and be and have that. So I want us to look at that carefully. All this work that's been done has been based on a permit that needs revising and should include how a person becomes a teacher in a developing ECE credential. And that means we need to be sure that we're including updated revising of the current permit so that people who want to be teachers can move in, can get in and move forward and upward, because there's a way to do that. Okay, that was more than 3 minutes. Thank you for indulging me.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Brown, and I share your enthusiasm for us being at this point. I see Commissioner Heredia, then Commissioner Simmons, and then Commissioner Greenwich-Shire.
So I'm enthusiastic also about how far this has come, just in my experience over the years with this, with the child development program at the institution where I worked. I just had one question, maybe I have two. So is there a process in which, after this is approved, is there a process in which feedback is can be offered and modifications made on an ongoing basis? Or is the process for making changes to the program, is it more formal than that? I mean, can someone just kind of speak to that? You know, especially since I know that there's piloting, but I'm just worried about the after approval. What's the process for modifications? Things aren't working.
Thank you. Is anyone on CTC staff?
I'll be happy to take a first stab at that. Thank you for your concern. The commission, of course, is always looking for input from the participating institutions, or as well as any institution that is offering a preparation program, whether they're not, they're in the pilots. One of the ways that we're doing that is we've established a number of research questions for the pilots. Those are in your agenda item. We're going to be, throughout the pilots, asking for input and feedback. We're going to ask everybody within the pilots for an annual update on what they've been experiencing in the pilots, what they see as issues that can be addressed, how things might be helped. We've established ECE office hours. These are twice a month when any program or anyone with any kind of question about ECE or feedback for the commission can contact us and give us that feedback or interact with us. We've also established a dedicated ECE mailbox where you can put questions and comments and concerns if you'd like to communicate with us. And we're always happy to speak with you and to hear that feedback. As far as more formal processes, there will be an update to the commission at regular intervals, just as we've been doing. It's been about every 6 months we seem to be presenting an update to you on what's been happening. And as soon as we get feedback from this participation in the pilots, we will be sharing that with you as well. Does that help to address your concern?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And that was my understanding. But I was just curious about, you know, following the approval of a program, a process.
Well, we are, I think, Dr. Sandy would concur in this. We are far from the point at which we are formally approving programs yet. We are just, as I said in the agenda item, we're at the beginning stages of this work. And the commission will, of course, have the opportunity to review the data that's provided by the pilots before any action is taken. And I see that Director Sandy is wanting to speak at this point, but I will defer to the chair as to who the next speaker is.
I will defer to our Executive Director, Sandy.
Well,
It's like you had a follow-up.
Dr. Jacobson and I are speaking from the same brain at the moment on this. We are piloting 2 brand new systems that have been described to you in this item that have heretofore not existed with respect to the child development permit. We have never done any type of formal accreditation or program approval within the early childhood space. Leading to a child development permit. We have never had a performance assessment in this space. Both of these tools are being developed for consideration in the future. And a huge part of what will occur during the pilot is an examination of the feasibility of it, the cost and other resource needs to implement these systems, and a determination of kind of is the juice worth the squeeze on all of this. This is almost an experimental opportunity for us that was funded through the Preschool Development Grant renewal that enables us to attempt to bring the early childhood preparation work for a child development permit into the tent where every other credential program lives. So all of this is being tried out for the first time, and we are so grateful to the institutions and the individuals who have helped to design these pilots potential programs in the future. But also, really emphatically, we're grateful to the institutions that are going to try these things out with us and provide that feedback. They're a critical part of helping the Commission understand what's doable, what's feasible, what's important to do. And then we need to take that out into the broader community, the policy community. How well are we aligning with the expectations of the new master plan for early learning and care? And what are the needed resources to implement, and at what level? To what extent will this continue to be formative? The CAP 8 work that's been going for many, many years has been a voluntary endeavor by mostly our community colleges and a few of our higher education institutions to align their curriculum together. So there's some alignment and coherence across preparation. The Commission is now moving into this sector, a space that we inhabit for every other credential that we issue. But right now, as Dr. Jacobson has said, this is really the beginning of what would it look like if preparation for this workforce were under the tent. And it would include performance assessments, which we have used to extraordinarily good benefit in a formative way. Before they ever became summative in California, meaning that your license depended on passage of it, formative use meant it was used inside your preparation program. It helped to shape clinical practice. It provided huge feedback to the candidate, to the program, to the Commission about, how are we all squaring up against the essential performances we expect candidates to be able to deliver. These are powerful tools to help shape professional preparation, and I just feel so fortunate that we have this opportunity with the Preschool Development Grant to build them as tools that could be put to use. But there's a lot of ground to cover between here and any formal adoption of these as programmatic features in the future. So that was probably more than needed to be said, but thank you for giving me my moment.
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you very much. Commissioner Simmons and then Commissioner Grano-Shire.
I have forgotten the difference between a design team and a work group and the various other configurations that the Commission has. But it does seem to me that the work has ripened to the degree that having system level representatives would make sense. I also think that we're probably at a place, especially with the TK funding, where employer and employee groups should probably be included. I think having CTA, CFT, CISSA, AXA, and all the rest probably would, as well as the AICCU and the UC and the CSU, would be helpful, because at this point, there's going to be huge ramifications, really P12, as we go forward, in terms of adding TK to the LCFF. Huge contract language changes are needed. And as we move people to different salary schedules, I think that having that input is going to make whatever the outcome is stronger. And also, I would say there was a lot of discussion in one of the letters about multiple TPAs. I think that some of the discussion that we had last commission meeting around the different flavors of special ed could inform what goes forward if people get a multiple subject and a 3-3 credential.
Great. Thank you. Executive Director Sandy?
I just wanted to jump in one more time. And I think Dr. Jacobson mentioned this in her wrap-up of the presentation, but towards the end of this agenda item, there is a short couple of paragraphs about other work, which gets back to the meat of the matter that Commissioner Simmons is raising. This item gives you a very in-depth view of things we're doing with this federal grant, tools we're building that will be of use in the system in the future, one way or another. This is going to help us in the future. But at the center of this is the need for us to get back to what the structure of the child development permit needs to be, how we are going to be looking at credentialing in the transitional kindergarten, universal TK, what we might be doing around pre-K through 3, which is the call of the master plan, and we're hearing that from various sources as well. And I contemplate the need for a larger group that will be representative beyond the current design teams who've had a very specific set of tasks in front of them. The larger question about how should we license in this field given the changing context is the big question that's next. And we plan to be back to you, we hope as early as October with a plan for that. I think it might have been mentioned in the item, I think it was, and Sasha Horowitz may have mentioned this tomorrow during the Ledge report, but the trailer bill language also invites the Commission to take a look at and be informed by how the employer community has staffed transitional kindergarten heretofore as an important information source as we look to the future of how we should be credentialing and licensing in the early childhood space. And it's no longer, I think, contemplated that we're going to treat these as silos. It's how do we treat this as a system. So more to come on this.
Yeah, I really appreciate the conversation on the systems and the consistent work the Commission does on working with stakeholders. So thank you both. Commissioner Grano-Shire?
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. I have a couple of comments, but I want to begin with thanking the Commission staff for such a meaty topic and a complex agenda item, and the thoughtfulness and care that you put in presenting this to us. I also want to thank all the campuses and the programs that are participating in the pilot. Let me begin with, I appreciate Director Sandy's clarification about system level representation on a larger licensure, that's what I'm calling it, work group. And I want to assure you that CSU is ready to participate in that conversation. Unlike Commissioner Brown, early childhood education is not my area of expertise. My girls went to early childhood care centers, and I was a child development major, but that's the extent of my expertise. However, in the last month, I've had so many conversations with different constituents and individuals about this huge workforce wave that is facing us, and the need for the Commission to work both slowly and yet quickly to address this need. And as we've done before, I have great confidence in the staff and the commissioners that we will do that. But I want to suggest that there is some low-hanging fruit out there with strengthening the permit. There is great interest in a credential and a BA, and I have visions of new integrated teacher education programs that combine this foundational information and content related to early learning with the pedagogical approaches that are so important. And then to strengthen our master's degree program in early childhood education to continue to support the need for directors of different centers. So I really appreciate Director Sandy's analogy about who needs to be in the tent. And the idea of bringing in our early childhood educators in a P3 credential is so exciting and so appealing to many of us in the CSU. So no, we have faculty experts who have beyond a child development minor like I do, that we will be happy to share their expertise. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much. This is an information item only, so I'm gonna, without seeing any hands, I'm gonna bring this to a close and thank our amazing CTC staff, Ms. Jacobson, Ms. Rising, Ms. Henderson, Ms. Keeler, and Ms. Milovich. Can't thank you guys enough. As you said, we'll be with you through 2022 as you continue this process, and we look forward to the constant and consistent updates that you guys are so great at providing to us. So with this item, we're gonna move on to 3E. Okay. Item 3E is the review and proposed adoption of the revised assessment design standards. This will most likely conclude our public meeting today. So as a reminder, for those who want to comment, please raise your virtual hand during the staff presentation so we have a sense of how many would like to speak. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes, and really appreciate those who have called in who have abided by that timeline. This item is presented by James Webb. This is an action item. Mr. Webb, will you please begin?
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez, and good afternoon, commissioners. I thought I would say good morning, but it is after 12, and I promise that I will make this as succinct and as comprehensive as possible as we are moving towards the later afternoon. So before you is an item on the proposed adoption of the revised assessment design standards. As the Commission is aware, we have already taken steps to put forward revisions to the assessment design standards, or ADS, so that they are more inclusive of candidates who are seeking an education specialist credential in the context in which they work to represent the full continuum of placements within the credential authorizations for general education and education specialist candidates. At the February 2018 meeting, the Commission did adopt the revised credential structure for preliminary education specialist teaching credentials. The new credential structure, which will go into effect in summer, fall of 2022, does include the 5 preliminary teaching credentials, which are listed in the item. And at that time, it was also determined that every teacher candidate would take and pass a teaching performance assessment prior to earning the preliminary credential for education specialists. In February of 2020, we convened a design team that is made up of 23 members representing the full range of teacher preparation programs, teacher induction programs, and the geographic regions of California, in addition to the 5 credential areas of authorization. Those team members are included in Appendix A for reference. At the January 2020 meeting, the Commission already revised the ADS to include education specialist contexts, and staff determined that the current ADS for the development of the Education Specialist Cal TPA needed those additional revisions to the first assessment design standard, which is assessment design for validity and fairness. There were minor revisions brought forward to the Commission at its June 2021 meeting that did include a variety of clinical placements for credential candidates while supporting the education specialist TPEs, with this emphasis on providing supports to students with disabilities. Upon the June 2021 meeting, staff recognized that there was a need to provide even further clarifying language in some of the adopted ADS to better determine what is being measured by the performance assessment. One example of a revision made to emphasize the education specialist candidate's ability to work with students with IEPs, and also that they would be working with students who are English learners, students who are in underrepresented communities, and also taking an even deeper look at the behavioral, physical, and/or cognitive or academic areas of need for the students. In Appendix B, you will see the additional edits to the assessment design standards as they are proposed. The edits are bolded so that one can easily see what changes have been made. As a result of the presentation and of the revised assessment design standards, we as staff recommend that the Commission adopt the revision to the assessment design standards, and our next steps will be to update all model sponsors for Commission-approved teaching performance assessments, and we'll also use these revised standards for our continued development of the Education Specialist Cal TPA. And with that, I conclude my presentation, and now we'll be happy to take any questions from commissioners.
All right, you were succinct indeed, Mr. Webb. Thank you. We're now going to open for public comment. If there's members who would like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand now or *9 on your phone. Recording Secretary, do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments on this item.
Okay. We will now close the period for the public comment. This is an action item. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on this item? And thank you, CTC, for integrating previous comments by commissioners as well as the public. I know it's getting later than lunch hour / pass, so hopefully our blood sugar is not too low. Got some questions here. All right. I am going to suggest, Mr. Webb, that you all did an amazing job integrating comments. And for that reason, we don't have any comments or questions because you all were such good listeners the previous time when we spoke with you. So I am going to go ahead and move to asking the commissioners to make a motion to adopt the changes to the assessment design standards and authorize the use of the new standards to reflect the full continuum of placements for preliminary credential candidates in the full age span from birth to 22. Do I have a motion by Commissioner? I see Commissioner Jackson as my first motion, and I have a second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay. Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney.
Aye.
Michael De La Torre.
Aye.
Johanna Howick.
Aye.
Susan Heredia.
Aye.
Carrie Jackson.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you, recording secretary, and thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you.
Staff, yeah. Having no additional items today, I recess the Educator Preparation Committee until tomorrow. Chairman Cooney?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Martinez. I will now recess the general session. Members of the commission will go into closed session. The general session will convene at 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Commissioners, you had 60 minutes, 45 minutes? Commissioners, would you like a full hour for lunch or 45 minutes?
45 minutes is good with me. What about others? No, yes.
Thumbs up if 45 is good.
Okay.
All right. So we will reconvene in closed session at 12:15. No, excuse me, at 1:15. 1:15. Right.
She gave us less of a break suddenly. All right. -10 for a second.
Leave it to me.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Well, I'll see you tomorrow.